Cameras on. This is
Marc.
I'm Elmer, and we are PSI.
Piano Scene Investigations.
Yes. I hope you're all doing well, boys and girls out there, all you piano geeks and crazies. We are here for another fun-filled episode. What is the date today? Is it the 20th?
Okay. Today is the summer solstice. Tomorrow is the strawberry full moon.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very close together, both of them. Yeah, summer solstice today. This is the 20th of June.
Yes. You know what? Were we going to premiere a new segment?
You were planning on that, yeah.
Oh, yeah? You want to do it now? Or?
If you want to.
Okay, well, we are premiering a whole new segment of PSI. Ladies and gentlemen, PSI presents to you High Plains Thrifter. Welcome to High Plains Thrifter. Okay, how's that?
You know he's doing that, right?
I'm trying to do, yeah. It's my worst impression of trying to do Clint Eastwood.
Mr. Westwood, Eastwood, Southwood,
yeah, whichever. Okay, anyways, I reach into the bag. The wife and I went thrifting again. You know, when she has 4 days off, and she finally gets, you know, the itch to go out and from the cabin fever or whatever. You know, we usually find something, and boy, did we do. We find this, a VHS copy of Vladimir Horowitz, A Reminiscence.
I have that.
You do have this?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Do you have the CD that goes with it? No. Check this out.
Wow.
Yes. So we actually found it at the same place. Let me show the folks this. So here's the VHS copy. Yes. And here's the CD. Very cool.
Hey, could you pass me that yellow pill?
The yellow pill? Okay. Gotcha.
There you go. Take it.
Now, my goodness.
That's better.
Do you ever sit down and just listen to Horowitz play the Bach Bisogni chorale preludes?
I've heard some, yeah. But I played one because of him. Nun kommt der Heiland.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, that is the closest thing I've heard to getting a piano to sound like an organ.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, the carefully balanced bass.
Yeah.
And
his instrument, too, was capable of doing something like that.
Wow.
It was a real hot rod of a piano.
Yeah. But anyways, sure. Check it out. So, now, it's strange. They've, you look on the back of the box, and the video is divided in 3 parts. So part 1 is Vladimir Horowitz, A Reminiscence. Part 2 is a performance of Chopin's Introduction in Rondo in E-flat major, Opus 16. And part 3 is Horowitz in London.
Yeah.
Horowitz in London. I don't know if you've...
That's the one he went to play for Diana when she was pregnant.
Yeah.
With William.
Now, I'm looking at this, and I have another VHS copy of Horowitz in London, and it doesn't have some of this. Now, on the other copy I have actually has the Scenes from Childhood by Schumann.
He played that especially for her because she didn't have.
Yeah, but this one has 5 Scarlatti sonatas,
Yeah.
the Chopin A-flat major waltz, Opus 69, number 1.
I think they requested that.
They did request that?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
They also have some Rachmaninoff, the Sonata number 2,
Woo.
and the Polka. So very good. It's quite a program. I want to know what order did he do this in? Because I know the one that I have at home has the Scenes from Childhood. Did it come after the Scarlatti?
One might think so.
Yeah.
You would have thought he would have finished with the Rachmaninoff.
Yeah.
Maybe I can look it up while you're talking.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, part 1, it says here, recently discovered footage from 1974, candid commentary by the wife Wanda Toscanini Horowitz, and rare home movies from the basis for an intimate portrait. Horowitz performed Chopin, Clementi, Liszt, Rachmaninoff in New York, London, and Vienna. High points are selected material from a celebrated return to Russia and a rousing, never-before-seen performance of Scriabin's Vers la Flamme. That's all in part 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I watched this whole video. It says Vladimir Horowitz, a reminiscence. I like tape. I like watching it. I mean, everything that Horowitz does, I like to, I watch all of his programs, his concerts. But my only problem with it really is that I was hoping that it had more, up-to-date information, on how he perceives his life. Which this is not. I mean, it's old footage. I think there is I think this is the one that has the footage when he was on 60 Minutes as well. But otherwise, it's a very good video. The CD recording, well, this one's very good too. Unlike the other ones, there's bonus tracks on this. He does the Adagio Cantabile from the Pathetique Sonata, and there's also the last track, Richard Wagner, in the Liszt transcription of the Liebestod from Tristan and Isolde. They don't mention Liszt though. Oh. So how you doing there, Professor?
No, I'm finding it yet.
Not finding it yet?
Well, the final piece was the Rachmaninoff second sonata.
It was the final piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm not seeing the full thing here, though.
Okay. So anyways, I reach into the bag, and what else do we have here? A couple episodes ago, we did talk about Dudley Moore.
Yep.
Well, lo and behold, he did have a CD out. Check it out. It's Dudley Moore. Solo CD. And anyways,
Really?
oh yeah, these are his original compositions for solo piano. I listened to the whole CD in my car. Every once in a while when I'm driving from, to and from work, or going out teaching piano lessons in between houses, I have my traveling music, and this was my traveling music for about a week. There are 13 tracks on the CD. Kenny G, the soprano saxophone player, assisted Dudley Moore on helping produce this CD. And the music is very heartfelt. He definitely had a flair for, well, the more intimate, slow jazz, how would you say, what's it called? it was sort of a mellow jazz piano playing. But the DVD, he calls it Songs Without Words. Pretty cool.
Cool.
And I didn't know this, but some of these tracks are actually music that he had written for movies that he did. One of them, 6 Weeks. Don't know if you've ever seen that one. 6 Weeks. It stars him and Mary Tyler Moore, and they're divorced and they have a daughter together, and the daughter wants to get to know her father better. That's a real tearjerker. There's another one. There's a track here called "Faithfully Yours."
I saw that.
You saw that one? Right. That's the one with
Long time ago.
Armand Desante, who's this concert violinist.
Yeah.
And my favorite segment in that whole movie was the part where they're performing Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto, the final movement, and Dudley Moore's conducting this way, and he's using the music of Tchaikovsky in his head as a soundtrack on how he's going to murder this concert violinist. And meanwhile, when he wakes up and he realizes he's conducting the orchestra, he's just becomes maniacal. And basically, here's Armand Asante playing, rather madly on his violin, trying to keep up. And meanwhile, Dudley Moore is standing there waving his baton, and he's laughing maniacally through the whole thing. So, but anyways, that's a good movie. Oh, it also stars Natasha Kinski, who plays his wife. Mm-hmm. So, but anyways, yeah, that's a pretty. I'd say that was a good movie. Anyways, there you go, Dudley Moore. If you're looking for it, it's a CD called "Song Without Words," and it's produced. Let's see, released by. Geez, I don't even know how you begin to say this. But it just says GRP, Digital Master. Oh, GRP Records. Copyright 1991. There you go. All right, are we ready for some more?
What year does it say did he do that?
This concert?
The London concert.
Oh, the London concert?
I think it was
19... Oh. Jeez, it doesn't say. Hold on. Look at. Nope, it doesn't say. I was hoping it would.
It's okay. Go ahead with this thing.
Okay. Anyways,
I think I may have found something here, but I'm scrolling.
Okay. All right. Moving on. So here. Oh, here we go. I found a list CD. A list CD. It's got performances of the Concerto No. 2, the Totentans, the Hungarian Fantasy, and the Malediction Concerto for piano and string orchestra. Seems straightforward, right?
Wow.
But listen to the roster of who plays these things. Concerto No. 2 is played by Claudio Arrau, conducted by Dimitri Mitropoulos, 1943.
Wow.
Now here's a rarity.
That would be interesting.
The Totentans is performed by the inimitable Arturo Benedetti Michelangelo. Holy crap.
What is this recording?
It's released by Fabula Classica.
Fabula Classica. So it's Italian, presumably.
Yeah. The Hungarian Fantasy is performed by Solomon Kuttner.
You mean Solomon? Or?
Solomon. Yeah, that's Kuttner's his last name. Usually he just goes by Solomon. Right. Okay, he's English, right? Yeah, and it is conducted by Walter Susskind.
Susskind, yeah.
Susskind. Philharmonia Orchestra. Now, here's one you may not even heard of. Okay, the Malediction Concerto for piano and strings. You've heard of the work, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. This is conducted by Vienna Symphony Orchestra, directed by Michael Gielan.
Oh, Michael Gielan. He did some great work. He was really quite renowned for his Mahler.
Now here's what's going to knock your socks off. Here's what's going to knock your socks off. Who's on the piano? Alfred Brendel.
Of course. Go, buddy.
Yeah.
Alfred Brendel played everything. I mean, and especially when, in his early career,
Yeah.
he had a massive repertoire.
Yeah, he
And
did.
there's some terrific Liszt performances. My favorite performance, period, of the Totentans is an old monaural recording. I forget who he plays it with, but it's Brendel.
Yeah.
It is driven, it is masculine, it is scary, it is fabulously and wonderfully played. You know, I have a great deal of respect for that guy. Well, and then there's a wonderful videos that he made in that church that, I don't know, he had something to do with it, but it was an old church in London that was reconstituted into a concert recording studio space. I don't know if he did that or it was done otherwise, but he loved the space and he liked to record in there. And they did these tapes, DVDs of him doing the Année de Pèlerinage. And I think it was the whole thing, the complete thing. You can actually see him playing it.
Wow.
His little bandages on his fingers and stuff.
Yeah. Now, something to mention about the Totentans track here, performed by Michelangelo. It is an old version of the Totentans. So there's today's recordings of the Totentans. It's is usually standard. The one by Alfred Brendel, the one with I believe Christian Zimmermann has a recording of it as well. But this one is really, well, let's just say, if you get to listen to either the Michelangelo recording or the Raymond Leventhal recording, or Lowenthal? I always get the two mixed up. Okay, I always get the two mixed up.
Actually, it's in correct pronunciation, everybody. It's Löwenthal. Means the Valley of the Lions.
All right.
Tal is valley, and Löwen is plural. Löwen is lions. Here it is.
Oh, you found it.
May 22nd. Oh, I'm going to send this to you.
Okay.
I don't remember the guy's name, but when I'm done talking about this, I'll mention the part. I mean, it's a huge page. I had to scroll through decades of recital programs of Vladimir Horowitz.
Oh, boy.
put together by this fan.
Okay.
This guy. I'll give you his name and stuff so you can look it up, or I'll write it on the thing anyway. So, is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, excuse me just for a
Sure,
minute.
no problem.
This was the complete program that he played for in Royal Festival Hall, London, England, May 22nd, 1982.
Mm-hmm.
This was his first European recital in 31 years, and he hadn't played in London since October 19th, 1951.
Holy moly.
31 years before that, right? So he plays God Save the Queen. You remember when
I remember he did that.
Stand Up.
Yep.
He arranged it.
Yeah.
And then he did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Scarlatti sonatas.
Okay.
Ooh. Then he played the Chopin Polonaise Fantasy.
Really?
And finished with ballad number 1, G minor, of Chopin.
That was the first half?
Yeah.
Wow.
Then after intermission, he played the Kinderszenen of Schumann and his arrangement of the Rachmaninoff second piano sonata. And encores, he played Scriabin's D sharp minor etude, the Chopin Waltz in E flat, and Rachmaninoff's Polka de Air.
Yeah.
WR.
Yeah,
I think they said that it was a song that his dad used to
Vasilyevich
whistle. Oh, cool. Did you know he stayed in London and played a second concert?
He played a second concert.
Now, the first one that I said was... Really? Yeah. Wow. Listen to this. So the first concert that I just mentioned in the program I laid out, that would be the one that he played for Diana and Charles.
Right.
Because we know the famous album release, it has Kinderszenen.
Yeah.
Which he specifically played because Diana was about to pop.
1
week later, 1 week later,
Okay.
in Royal Festival Hall, he starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, the same six.
Keeping us in suspense.
The same 6 Scarlatti sonatas.
Okay.
Then he plays the 4th Ballad of Chopin, F minor.
Ooh.
That was the first half. Second half, he started with the Ballad in B minor, number 2 of Liszt.
Oh.
Then he played the D flat major constellation, number 3. G sharp minor prelude of Rachmaninoff, opus 32, number 12. And then the beautiful prelude in G minor, opus 23, number 5. Then he played the Chopin Mazurka in A minor, opus 17, number 4. That beautiful.
Okay.
And finished with the first scherzo of Chopin in B minor. Then his encores, he played Träumerei of Schumann, the waltz in C sharp minor of Chopin, and the final piece was the entire Polonaise in A flat of Chopin.
Oh, good.
Played the whole thing. You imagine that's a lot of music in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, he repeats the Scarlatti.
Scarlatti, that was
But
it.
otherwise, first Chopin Ballad,
Yep.
Chopin Waltz in A flat,
Yeah.
Chopin Ballad number 4, Chopin Mazurka, Chopin Scherzo, the Chopin Waltz, finishing Chopin A flat Polonaise.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of music.
A lot of repertoire.
Not bad for an old man, is what he used to say.
I don't mention the Polonaise Fantasy and the Ballad G minor, of course.
Yeah.
And then he played the Kinderszenen of Schumann.
Yeah.
But come on, did he play the Rachmaninoff second sonata? And then the following weekend he plays the B minor Ballad of Liszt.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, and this is really cool. You're looking through this.
What is it?
I will tell you guys. Why don't you go ahead and talk for a while?
Okay, sure.
And then I'll tell you what this was. I'm going to go here where I'll send you a copy. And
Okay, thank you.
a copy.
All right, so I'm pulling some more out of the thrifting journey here. Here I have in my hands is a very unique CD released by Hyperion.
Go ahead.
And it is a Marc-Andre Hamelin recording
Wow.
of the Samuil Feinberg Piano Sonatas.
Whoa.
Oh my goodness,
I
folks.
was looking at those.
There
You
is-
found this in the thrift store?
I found this at a thrift store.
Wow.
At a thrift store.
How much you pay for it?
$1.
Damn, you know what this goes for? It's close to $20 at least.
Probably. It's a
Online.
Hyperion CD.
Wow.
So anyways, yeah. I did not know this, but Samuil Feinberg wrote 6 piano sonatas.
Yeah.
6 of them.
Actually, I got a recording of these by somebody.
You do?
Well, when we were talking about Feinberg a while back,
Yeah, we did.
I don't think it's
not
it
it.
is that one.
It is this one?
But I got it for cheaper than I had seen it for. No, I do own this too.
Oh, okay.
But
Cool.
no.
But, hey, well, let me show them
It's
first.
a great
It's an
collection.
awesome CD.
And Feinberg was an amazing musician and pianist. I mean, one of those people kind of lost inside the Soviet Union.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, they got their own iceberg
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of cultural history and all that, you know. And Feinberg was a really interesting guy. He was
Mhm.
kind of a prodigious young man. He was famous because for his final jury for the conservatory, not only did he play the music that they asked him to play, but he offered to them, by memory, the complete Well-Tempered Clavier Books 1 and 2, all the preludes and fugues, anything they wanted to hear. And they said, okay, you know, I mean, you don't ever throw something like that to your piano jury.
No, you
Because they're gonna take it into the mud for it.
Yeah.
And it ended up they requested one prelude fugue, and it was something like 6 to 8 of them that they wanted to hear, and he just
rattled them off.
rattled them off, and they gave them a standing ovation.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess he won a gold medal or something, but as a relatively young guy, he got teaching work.
Yeah.
And then he ended up for some decades being a teacher.
Oh, yeah, he was.
And a really beloved teacher who was totally devoted to his craft. He never got married. I don't even think he was homosexual. I think he was married to the piano.
Yeah. Music.
And lived in his brother's house, I believe it was, or brother-in-law. I think it was his brother's house. And he had his own room, and he had a piano. You know, he did his thing. But you got to listen to this guy. How's his Jewish name? It's what, Feinberg?
Feinberg.
What's his first name?
Samuil.
Samuil?
Oh, well, actually,
Samuil.
Yeah.
Samuil Feinberg.
Samuil.
But, you know, he was a Jewish musician. Fortunately, one of them that managed to escape the repression, but that's perhaps because he was such a highly regarded and obviously important person in the state. But he did some good recordings too. There's apparently, not apparently, there's a collection of, I think.
I loaned one to you.
Yeah, but I think there's a collection of the complete Beethovens.
Oh, jeez.
And then there's a few different versions of the Preludes and Fugues available. They tend to be a little pricey because most of these are coming out of old Russian
archives.
So I haven't been in a position to get them, but if you can listen to this guy play, it's really great because, you know, I really believe this. I know I got off on a little tangent, but I think there's a big difference between, let's say, the Tsarist world that entered the early Soviet period, where the pianists were trained in what it would have been Anton Rubinstein's conservatory in St. Petersburg, or Nikolai Rubinstein and Salati, right? They were in Moscow, I believe.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it worked. And then Leshtitsky for a while was teaching with Anton up in St. Petersburg. But you had this kind of playing that came out of Russia from that period.
There's a lot of them.
Some of these guys that came out of there. And then, I mean, they had wonderful teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Who was the Asapova taught
Asapova.
And Nyhaus, I think they
Nyhaus, Stanislav,
and his father.
Yeah.
Both
Wilhelm
of them. Wilhelm and Stanislav.
Alexander Goldenweiser.
Goldenweiser.
He was a teacher of Rachmaninoff.
So there were some fabulous teachers coming through the whole 20th century, very well-known people. Wasn't that the lady that we discovered more recently, the older, heavy-set Russian lady that could really play so beautifully?
Tatiana Nikolaevna?
Yeah. I somehow have. Did you load it to me and I copied it?
What is it?
All the Shostakovich preludes.
Oh, that. I don't know.
Is that her?
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's her.
Let's put it this
way. That was
way.
the chosen pianist by the composer.
These people, once Anton Rubinstein got this stuff going, have had an unblemished, and I imagine, I don't know really nowadays, but a remarkable, consistent record of amazing teachers and training in their institutions. And I mean, it's probably demonstrated by the ones that come over here and win the competitions and things once in a while. We've been lucky to have a number of Russian pianists who either are teaching or settled artistically in the United States when they could. But I think there's a difference in the playing style generally.
Oh, sure.
I mean, there's some who probably got into their ears and tried to do, like when who's the guy last week? Kuleshov? What's his name?
Oh, Valery Kuleshov?
Kuleshov.
Yeah. Who
clearly had a great passion and love for Horowitz's playing and his sound, right?
Yeah.
But I also think of some of the others, like Emu Galels, who was a wonderful classicist. I think, some of the finest Beethoven sometimes I've heard. Very exciting Beethoven.
Yeah.
But sometimes some really super powerful Rachmaninoff. Rachmaninoff for the B flat minor, B minor.
Yeah.
From Opus 23, is it?
Yeah.
Holy God. Yeah. And Prokofiev and then some things. And I listened to, is it my recording or you loaned it?
Which is it?
Gilel stuff.
I loaned it to you.
Yeah.
That had the Petrushka
yes.
and everything. Yeah.
Amazing piano playing.
Yes, it is.
But of a somewhat super steel kind of technique. Yeah. And I think even more recently, somebody like that, and I admire him for everything that he has done musically and what he did with his life and everything, but sometimes his piano sound just was too harsh for me. Vladimir Ashkenazy. I mean, clearly the guy could play famously, but there's some videos of him, frankly, just, I think, pounding the shit out of some Chopin etudes on YouTube.
Okay.
But Feinberg, when you hear him play, it's lovely Bach, and people might say, you know, it's not probably Rosalind Turek's Bach or more contemporary Bach, but it's beautiful Bach. And the really extraordinary thing is I've kind of learned, is J.S. Bach was being played in the late 19th and especially into the first quarter of the 20th century. Claudio Rao was renowned early on in his career as a great Bach player. And there's many pianists who were playing Bach. I don't think commercially it got recorded all that much early on.
Not a lot.
But
even Richter recorded the Bach.
Yeah.
Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1.
So there was a kind of a playing that I think was remarkably poetic and tonally beautiful, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then it gave way to something of a more, you know, think of what happened to the people. I mean, let's put it this way. If the spirit of Stalin really put itself on the Russian nation and the Russian people, that might be where it all came from. Because there's a steel-like grip, you know, and power and driven energy in so much of the playing. And I don't mean to be generalizing. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. But if you listen to the guys who came of age before the success of the Soviet, well, definitely before the success of the Soviet Revolution in 17, the second one, and frankly, even who might have come of age at least through the 20s, when Trotsky and the liberal kind of progressive, it was an interesting period in the 20s in Russia. The movie that Warren Beatty did with Shirley MacLaine, wasn't it? Reds.
Yeah.
That's based on that early period of the Soviet transition. There was quite a huge explosion and celebration of art and poetry and music and all of this. And the Russians were glorifying their own cultural contributions and everything they did. You know, evaluating themselves, I think, on a justifiably very high level in terms of what they were capable of. And a lot of work, more creative work went into that. And it affected people throughout the world. Frida Kahlo and her husband, Diego Rivera, were both Marxist sympathists. They were actually neighbors of Trotsky in Mexico City. He was just down the street when he got killed. I know I'm going off on a thing here, but it's all about Feinberg. It's passion, right? Because when I heard the guy play, I just thought, wow, I mean, Feinberg to me, in the way that he plays, and of course, he started Bach even when he was a kid, like when he was youngish, and in his teens. That's the first time he ever actually apparently was able to play all the Preludes and Fugues. And then he just decided to offer that to the faculty as well. You know, here's this, 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 and if you like any of the 48 Preludes and Fugues,
would have made Stormball happy.
By that point, he had been pretty much mastered them 10 years before. You know, not that much, but let's say 5 years before. Anyway, his playing has a certain kind of poetic, natural unfolding, beautiful tone and everything. Maybe I wouldn't say because it's not the same repertoire, and I haven't heard him play that kind of repertoire, but there's something similar between him and, for me, Ignaz Friedman, who you now know is like one of my high boys on the totem pole. That's how much I like Feinberg's playing. And I have this and I listened to it. These 6 sonatas really cover a big scope.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're all very interesting and very good.
Yeah. You know, I found them almost like pre-Scriabin.
Yeah.
Because there was like Scriabinesque qualities about it, but it was almost, he still had one foot on the, in the 19th century.
Romantic, and then he's starting to move towards that kind of, I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
Scriabin took us on a kind of a mystic side path.
Yeah.
You know, because he really favored the fourths.
Yeah.
He favored what we call quartal harmony.
Harmonies.
So instead of based on thirds and the triad, he started to look at the relationship of the fourth.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because that supposedly is the feminine cadence, four to the tonic, that Tovey doesn't like about Tchaikovsky's writing because he likes feminine cadences 4/1 instead of Beethoven cadences, which are 5/1. Yeah. And Scriabin takes us off on a path. Incredible. But now we should get back to your stories and stuff, but I just, that really, I'm glad those two come together because Marc-Andre Hamelin is a huge discovery for me as well. Yeah. I mean, he's been around for a long time.
Very long time.
But you know, with my career and everything, as I said, I didn't have time to listen to all these other guys, you know. I didn't think of the competitors, just colleagues and stuff. And I'm not putting myself necessarily up in the same pantheon. I mean, there's very few people who could be up there with Marc-Andre Hamelin.
Very few.
The guy is, he's like a reincarnated Godowski, I think.
That's
pretty close. Because he can play all that stuff. Yeah. And with such humorous ease and facility in the way that puts a smile on your face, like you're just saying, you know, I'm going to say, damn it, you know. Just, I don't know. I mean, I don't think, of course, I think you can train yourself to get to a point where you could play that stuff. I'm talking about Godowski, for example. But I think it's almost like a God-given, you know, when you're born. There's a little charge he throws in there, some chromosomes, or I don't know what they are, that just turns it on and you can just do it. Yeah. Because Hamelin has that kind of mind and the grace. I mean, he handles the structure well and all that, and the way he plays the Feinberg, it's like, again, whenever he approaches the music I've heard him do, he has a natural connection with it, like a performer and composer integration that's so good. It's like with Rubinstein Chopin, recordings from the 60s especially. Yeah. It's like, I love other people's playing, I love Friedman's playing, but when I hear Rubinstein play Chopin, I just said, that's 100% convincing. That is the way that, at least that's one definite way you can play that piece. Yes. Totally convincing. And Hamelin does that with everything he does. Yes. So I apologize for that long exegesis, but
now
that's a part of the.
It's part of our program.
What do you call that thing? The big ice thing.
Iceberg.
That's a part of the iceberg you want to explore. You want to look at that.
Absolutely.
Samuil. He spells it usually in English Samuil, but it's Samuil, right? Samuil Feinberg, and Feinberg is spelled like normal Western Jew, right?
F-E-I-N
B-E-R-G.
B-E-R-G.
Yeah, normal spelling.
Okay, which brings us to a pianist that we had talked about quite a bit. This is Bolodos, live at Carnegie Hall.
Ooh.
Now, some of you
just found this one?
Yeah, we found this one.
This is not the one that you brought in before.
No, that was his debut recording. That was
the Schubert?
No, not the Schubert.
No, the debut was the transcription.
Yeah, that's the one that had the Feinberg.
You brought one that had the Schubert stuff on it.
What do you think?
I don't think I borrowed it from you.
No.
I don't think I did.
But did you listen to it? You haven't heard it?
I haven't heard it.
Okay, well, anyways, this is his live Carnegie Hall debut.
Wow.
Some of you probably have already heard this.
Did you show him Feinberg up there on the camera?
I don't know. Okay, I guess I think
I got you off.
All right, I'll show it again. Samuil Feinberg. This is Bolodos, live at Carnegie Hall.
Wow. You showed him the list on the camera.
I showed him what list?
The list, that one.
Oh, that one. I forgot to.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm off my game today.
I'd like to look at that too, because that looks really cool. That's quite a little find you got there.
Sorry, folks.
That looks like it's an Italian production. I don't think I know the name. Fabula Classica.
Yes. Okay, anyways. the lineup here on the Velodos live at Carnegie Hall, October 21st, 1998. That was a while ago. Now, this is not necessarily the program order that he did at Carnegie Hall, but this is at least the program order he puts on the CD. He opens with the Liszt Hungarian Rhapsody, the Hungarian Rhapsody number 15, the Rakoczy March, arranged by Vladimir Horowitz. And that is a real hair raiser. Second, third, and fourth tracks are all Scriabin. He does the Enigma, Opus 52, number 2, the Caresse Danse, Opus 57, number 2.
What dance?
Caresse?
Never.
Caresse.
That's right, Caresse. That's a composer's name?
No, it's Scriabin's piece.
Oh, I don't know that.
Dance.
I don't know what that is.
Anyways, he also does the Sonata number 10, Opus 70. Also Scriabin. Now check out the Rachmaninoff set. He does Fragments from 1917. The Etude Tableau, Opus 59, number 8. Etude Tableau, Opus Posthumous, number 5.
Wow.
Wow, that's interesting. Schumann set, the Bunte Blatter?
Blätter. Yeah.
Blätter.
Yeah. Blatt is singular and Blätter is plural.
Okay.
Leaves.
Okay. Number 22, Liszt, Variations on Mendelssohn's Wedding March. The Scriabin, this is the last track, number 23, Opus 2, Prelude number 2.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
It's a left-handed one, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not that familiar with his work. Now, a word about the Variations on Mendelssohn's Wedding March. It's in the Liszt arrangement, but it's also arranged by Horowitz. The Horowitz recording actually has the scherzo fragment in it. So he digresses to the scherzo. This one does not have that. It just goes da 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 da, and then it's followed by the variations of that theme. But if you want to hear the actual whole thing, you have to find the Horowitz version where it has the scherzo in the middle of it. So
I think this is...
But it's still hair-raising.
This is really interesting program. But I also think, like when you showed me that album a while back, and I declined to listen to it right now only because I was busy right then.
Yeah.
It was when I was preparing to take the concert to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But he plays the Schubert G major, isn't it? Or
Schubert
like
G major sonata?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that on there? Because I think of Velodos as I've gotten to know him and heard him.
Yeah.
This kind of Russian and poetic Horowitzian kind of repertoire.
Yeah.
This is like when he's right in the middle of his this seems like this would be really cool to hear. And I would imagine it'd be fabulous. I thought this that he sits in a chair.
I told you about
Just
that.
a plain old chair,
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a fancy chair either.
No, it's not.
Glenn Gould has his.
It's like a folding chair.
Fancy chair. And he looks like he's a big boy, a little thickish.
Yeah.
And I imagine he's relatively tall, but it looks like... I've always looked at him, I thought it looked like it could be more from the waist up.
Yeah.
But he's taller. He's got a big head. He's got kind of meaty hands.
Oh, yeah.
But what I've learned to love about this boy is this is a composer / conductor who can play the pianist as well as anybody ever has.
Oh, yeah.
Frankly, better than a lot of people.
Oh, quite frankly, yeah.
And part of it is because his mind and his ear are... He knows really what he wants to have, what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So you even get a great orchestra, and they got a really good conductor, but then you get a great orchestra and a special conductor. I think, for example, like what I love to hear, I keep repeating, anytime you want to have a great, something always present in your home whenever you can, whenever you want to, is the digital hall application from the Berlin Philharmonic. I started to get it years ago during COVID year.
Yeah.
They offered it for free. And I had a whole year free of it, and then afterwards it became available. It's gotten now where it's about $16 a month, so it's $4 a week. But you get the entire archives of the Berlin Philharmonic that they got going historically back to the Furtwängler days at least, you know, and all the stuff now that they're doing. But there's their conductor now is Kirill Petrenko, smallish little guy. I believe he has composerish aspirations, or he is or was, or something like that. I mean, how could he was? Yeah. But I remember thinking that he was very seriously studying composition.
He probably was, yeah. Or probably is.
And he's a really amazing guy in this day and age, especially as the director of the Berlin Philharmonic, which historically is probably one of the most famous ensembles on the planet, and deservedly so. And he's quite quiet. I wouldn't say he's shy.
Yeah.
It's just that he doesn't yearn for excess publicity or attention or anything. Yeah. And he's completely engaged musically. Yeah. I think he comes from a musical family, because there's another Petrenko.
Yes, there is.
Also quite well known.
Yeah.
He's a Jewish guy from somewhere in the middle of Russia, as I recall. Not, big cities, but somewhere else. But found his way through. I mean, come on. Yeah. When the Berlin Philharmonic decides they want you to be their conductor.
Absolutely. And,
I mean, I'm not a major fan, for example, let's say, of Tchaikovsky. I honestly am not a big fan of his music. And it's not a snobby thing. It just doesn't touch me quite the same. I love certain things, like the Sixth Symphony. Come on, that's great. And I think in some cases, nobody wrote better for ballet than Tchaikovsky does. It's remarkably wonderful, colorful music and everything.
It's easy to count for the ballet dancers.
But I remember the Fourth Symphony, for example.
Yeah.
And then I think of the Fifth, too. I've heard with Petrenko conducting it.
What do you think?
Really impressive.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe there is something, pardon me for saying this could be true of any composer.
Yeah.
But is Tchaikovsky at all possibly susceptible to being good in almost anybody's performance?
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
It can be kind of like, the music is just so, it's well written, it's tuneful, it's got, but, I don't mean to put the boy down or anything, nothing like that, but I mean, like, there's certain composers, it's like, if you're a decent performer, you can pretty much, pull it off, and everybody's going, hey, and it was pretty, and it had nice melodies, and there's good things going on. Where then when somebody like Petrenko takes it, it just elevates up to an entirely different level of interpretation and persuasion. Yeah. There's stuff there somehow that's, you understand what I mean?
I know exactly what you think.
Because, come on, I mean, let's put this way, the B-flat minor concerto, if the pianist can play it, it's an impressive piece.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
And it's really cool the way it's written between, almost like chamber music at times, especially in the scherzo between the piano and the woodwinds and things like that. I mean, if you're good enough to play it,
it pretty much plays itself.
In a way,
pretty much plays itself. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But then once in a while you get somebody who really brings something
to the table.
To it.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily thinking of Horowitz.
Or Volodos.
I haven't heard his performance of it, but I have occasionally heard some pianists who play the B flat. And I go, wow, that's there's something there. I would like to hear Yun Chanlin play it. I understand that is in his repertoire.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
And I've seen some news reports where he played it. Seems like right now he's doing the Van Cliburn thing. He's either playing the Rachmaninoff third or he started to play the second.
Yeah.
And the Tchaikovsky first. I hope they let the boy play other music.
Yeah.
Van Cliburn eventually kind of burned out because everybody wanted to hear him play.
Well, he has Yun Chanlin has a Mozart concerto under his fingers too.
Really?
Yeah, because there was a Mozart concerto round in the competition. They did away. Remember, they did away with the quintet.
The news that I've seen more recently, though, it looks well. I was pleased to see that he played the Tchaik one.
Yeah.
I wasn't entirely surprised to see he had two in his fingers.
Yeah.
Of course, three. I doubt there's anybody playing it on the planet who plays it as interestingly and as beautifully, especially as he's capable of doing it. You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm getting us way off base.
Okay.
Did you show it to him?
I did.
I would love to hear this at some point, but this would be really cool because Voloda's very clearly, from the beginning, it's just an exception to the rule.
Yes.
All the rules. He didn't win any competitions. And wasn't Thomas Frost came to Paris because somebody said, you gotta hear this guy. He heard him practicing outside his house, outside the door, and he, without even meeting him yet, he said, we gotta get this guy in the recording studio.
Yeah.
And that's how his career started.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like that lady, Valentina, what's her face?
Lisitsa?
Lisitsa.
Yeah, Lisitsa.
Sadly, in this present time of day, with things being, oh my God, the whole world is becoming so politicized.
Yeah.
Everything is politicized. And I mean, rightly so. There's some brazenly unnecessary horror going on in the planet that it just doesn't need to be like that. And I think ultimately that the most disgusting aspect of it is so much of this stuff looks to any sensible person to really fundamentally politically motivated violence. You know, but Lisitsa sadly has kind of found herself persona non grata for a while because she's one of Putin's artistic bailiwicks. She's good buddies with Mr. Putin. But I thought she's Ukrainian.
That's what I thought, too.
Yeah. But there are Russian Ukrainians, you know, and people are sympathetic to that. She decided to ally herself with Putin, and suddenly she didn't get invitations to play and stuff for a while. But she was an extraordinary thing because she and her husband were down in the Carolinas somewhere.
Yeah?
I think that's how it started, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know
that. Well, they immigrated to the States, and I think she was teaching. Her husband is apparently quite a good pianist as well. He was working as a taxi cab driver, just before him to make ends meet, you know. And she started to do those video recordings in a church or somewhere, or a school. Maybe it was different places, but anywhere she could find a great piano, and they'd turn on the film, and she'd get going. And she became this internet sensation in the United States.
Yes.
And the great thing was that she was playing like the original version of the Rachmaninoff Sonata.
Yeah.
And so these big old things.
Yeah.
She has this way of. She reminded me when I heard her play back in those days. I imagine she's still doing the same stuff, but it had an old school Russian way of sounding. You know, this wonderful tone and big, strong, beautiful playing, but very lovely lyric playing and, you know, rubato and things that really flowed really beautifully. She started to get, people were paying her attention to these videos to the point where she started to get the occasional invitation to do a recital, and then the big break was she started to get concerto invitations.
Yeah.
And once she proved herself, and then people did just like kaboom.
Boom.
She took off hugely. Was playing, I mean, as an unknown pianist, suddenly playing with the New York Philharmonic, the St. Louis, the Chicago Symphony, Boston. I mean, the big ones.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, she did.
And then she moved to Europe, you know, and then started to conquer the world. And that was all due to the internet.
Yeah, pretty much.
And with Velotos, I think it.
Velotos.
Velotos clearly, in a way, I think he's built his reputation. I've never seen him play.
Oh, I have.
You saw him play?
Live twice at the Southern Theater.
Here in Columbus?
Yes, in Columbus, and it was amazing. What you hear on the CD is exactly what you hear on stage live. So it's not a trick.
How does he look when he's playing? I mean,
When he's playing, it's like exactly what I told you. He sits straight, you know, and sometimes he even leans backwards, but he's got this sort of Brahms posture when he sits.
But he has a little bit of girth in front of him, and he has really big, strong arms.
Yeah.
A person like that can afford to sit back a little bit because you still got some mass moving.
Yeah, exactly. And the way the bigger chords, when he wants to get that really big sound, it's almost like he's pushing down. Almost. I mean, that's what I saw. Okay.
But it's a beautiful.
But it's a beautiful sound. It's wonderful. There's no signs of banging at all. And I tell you what, when when they first came to Columbus, it was a packed house, and I couldn't help notice in the corner of my eye that Wild and his buddy were incognito. He had his sunglasses and his shades on, and so he wanted to go see too.
Good.
So now, unfortunately, a couple of years later, he came back to Columbus to the Southern Theater, and you know, of course, I waited with bated breath. I bought tickets exactly, you know, just for that thing to see him play again. And he was not any less wonderful than he was, you know, the 2 years prior to that. Now, to my surprise, it was not a full house this time. I'm sad to say. I wish they advertised it better.
Do you remember the years?
I don't remember the years, but I went with a colleague of mine both times. But now my only disappointment was on the program. He had on the program his one of his works. It was an arrangement of Hungarian Rhapsody number 13 in A minor. I think it's an A minor. But anyways, he didn't play that. Oh no! Wait. What was it? I'm not sure if it's out here. I'm trying to remember what it was. No. On the program, it was his arrangement of Rachmaninoff's Italian polka. It was his arrangement of the Italian polka, and instead, he didn't play that. He played the Hungarian Rhapsody number 13 in A minor, which he had already played on his first concert here. So I was. I mean, it was a wonderful performance. But nevertheless, I was really looking forward to hearing what the Italian polka was under his hands, because it was a new work. You know, it wasn't on CD yet, and so I was all excited to hear what he was going to do. So, but anyways, yeah, it was still a good concert.
I've seen him on videos.
Yeah.
On YouTube, there was a period where it looked like he was living in Switzerland. It was wonderful because the camera was on him and his Steinway.
Yeah.
And then there's a wall of books and music that's behind him.
Yeah.
But I understand now he lives in Spain.
He does live in Spain.
Yeah. Do you know what part?
I don't know what part of Spain, but there is a video of him performing his arrangement of the slow movement cello sonata by Rachmaninoff.
19 of his 19.
And it's outside.
Oh.
It's outside.
Wow.
They had a deck, a high deck. They had the grand piano there, people all around it, and then they had these spotlights from, I don't know, the corners of the deck.
You know,
and
is he younger than us? Probably a bit.
He is a bit younger than us. I would imagine he's about in his 40s right now.
So, Wouldn't it be wonderful to live somewhere near a great artist, poet like Volodymyr? I mean, what an experience that would be.
Yeah.
Because I get the impression, I mean, he's been pretty successful.
Oh, yeah.
And again, he did it, I think he's been, I'm sure he performed in public plenty.
Oh, yeah.
But I get the impression that his career has been, like, he's one of those people that people talk about and whisper about.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you call it, word of mouth recommendation? Yeah. And it started, I think, with recordings.
Yeah.
Then I think he got some attention because he never did any competitions.
He never did any competitions.
But he did some, come on, he did a Carnegie Hall debut recital.
Oh, yeah.
Or a debut recording and then the Carnegie Hall recital.
Yeah. This is number 2.
So, because of his abilities, he just kicked the doors open to some huge places.
Oh, yeah.
He just, boom, just entered the top. And he's always had the wherewithal to stay there. And I imagine he probably made enough money. This thing that I've sent you, by the way, and I'll make an actual copy of myself. But I want to just tell you who this is. And I'll probably put the information up on the page as well.
Okay.
I mean, here it is.
Yeah.
This is called the Horowitz website.
Yeah.
A listing of Horowitz. This is just one of the things that's on the website.
Mm-hmm.
A listing of Horowitz's concerts as a professional pianist, prepared and compiled by Christian Johansson and Bernie Horowitz. I'm sure no relation. But it talks a little bit about his beginnings, the periods of times when he was especially active, because there are periods where you see that just stop. But it starts out, if you can imagine this, with his Kiev Conservatory graduation recital in 1920, May 30th.
And what was on that?
You really want to know?
Yes.
So he started out with Bach Busoni, Toccata, Adagio, and Fugue in C major.
Okay.
One of the great organ transcriptions.
Yeah.
Then a jig in G major of Mozart.
What is that?
Beethoven's Sonata. And they don't know because the program just said Beethoven Sonata. And it says either the Appassionata or Opus 110, according to Horowitz's old memory. He wasn't sure.
Okay.
And then the Schumann Etude Symphonique.
Oh.
That was the first half.
That was the first half. Oh, God.
Second half.
All right.
And understand, this is his equivalent of a bachelor's recital, all right?
Okay.
Second half begins, presumably, with the original version of the Rachmaninoff Second Sonata, B-flat minor, because I don't think he would have reworked it at that point. Then he played the Fantasy in F minor of Chopin.
Oh, dude.
Then 6 preludes of Felix Blumenfeld, who was his teacher.
Yeah.
And then he finished with something that was very famous at the time that he did. Liszt's Reminiscence on Mozart's
Don Giovanni!
And then there were unknown encores.
Unknown encores? Oh, gosh. I wonder which one of them shows that Zelensky etudes.
Ooh.
What is it?
He had to do, there you go. He had to do 3 recitals.
He had to do 3 recitals?
1920, so that was the solo recital.
Okay.
Then he had to do a chamber music concert, which was the Schumann Piano Quintet and Schubert's Winterreise. And then the concerto that he had to present was Rachmaninoff's Third.
Oh, gosh. Figures.
Yeah, and you know there's a famous story about that when Horowitz came to New York the first time.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes, we all know the story.
He was introduced to his hero,
yeah,
Sergei Rachmaninoff, who was already in New York. And they made an arrangement to go to the Steinway building for Horowitz to pick out a piano for his concert.
Yeah.
And one of the works that he was doing was the Rachmaninoff Third. Can you imagine? I would have died to have been a fly in that hall. Yeah. Because down in the Steinway building where they have all the pianos lined up, he found the one he wanted to do. Rachmaninoff sat one next to him. And the two of them both by memory, of course the composer, and Rachmaninoff played the orchestra part, Horowitz played the solo part to the Third Symphony.
Yeah.
Third Concerto.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that would have been like? I mean, and Horowitz, I mean, is he young, hopefully excited? Was he nervous?
Yeah.
Playing this for the master?
Oh,
you know?
God. Yeah.
I mean, this guy was the most, regarded as one of the most complete pianists in history.
Yeah.
Technique was just like infallible.
Yeah.
And after they were done, Horowitz was so happy and so excited and so everything.
Yeah.
And apparently Rachmaninoff stayed behind and told some Steinway guys after he walked out down the hall. He said, this Horowitz, he plays this concerto better than I do.
Yes.
But can you imagine, oh my God, to have heard that performance on two pianos with the composer and Horowitz playing the Third Concerto. And it reminds me too, there's a fabulous recording of the Barber Sonata.
Yeah.
From the 50s at some point. This was before he retired, I think, first time. It's a gripping performance.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of panther-like Horowitz tension in it. But he did, he went to Cuba and played it at a private concert in some guy's mansion down there before he brought it to New York and did it. I would have loved to have been in that house in Cuba.
Oh, gosh.
And heard the world premiere.
Like the Barber
The Horowitz at the piano of the Barber Sonata. There's another great performance of it by Vic Kleiber.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful performance. That album we talked about before.
Yeah, we did talk about it.
Prokofiev 6 is on the other side.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's one of the greatest piano albums in history. Vic Kleiber. One side is Prokofiev 6, the other side is the Barber.
Samuil Barber. Yeah, I know.
Sorry I got us off.
That's okay. That's fine.
So, I'm going to go check my printer. I'm printing out this article.
Okay.
But I think you're going to enjoy looking at that. And I'll put some more written information up about that Horowitz website.
Okay. But anyways, folks, I wanted to reiterate about that story about Horowitz and Rachmaninoff. I've also heard that he said that he composed that work for elephants, and he swallowed it whole. So, but anyways, there's plenty of stories about their relationship. All good. There's another story as well that Rachmaninoff invited Maestro Horowitz to his house, and they played two piano works together. And the story has it that they were doing, the two piano suites, number 1 and number 2. And so they worked on it a while. They just played around with it. The story I had was that Rachmaninoff liked to rehearse it at a very painfully slow tempos. Very painfully slow tempos. And after a while, when he was happy with the work they did, he called up his recording producer and suggested that they record those two piano suites. And unfortunately, that whole idea was lost to posterity because rumor has it that it was denied, and so the lost is ours. We could have had recordings of Rachmaninoff's piano suites with Horowitz and Rachmaninoff himself on the two pianos, and we don't have them because RCA said no. Oh boy, I'm so sad to hear that. And for those more contemplative moments, Dudley Moore, songs without words, really, really. I used to listen to this. It was quite an interesting drive home from a late night at work. Oh, and if you can find it,
I want to look.
I know. I'll give it back. I'll give it back.
Dudley looks very relaxed there.
So, anyways, the Franz Liszt CD. I'll show it to you one more time. A very unique CD. Kuttner Solomon, Alfred Brendel.
This would be really deep.
Actually, it doesn't get better. hard to find, but if you find it, get it. Uh-oh. Oh, there goes Schubert.
He's all right.
Oh, gosh.
He's a tough boy.
Oh, good.
He's a tough boy.
Oh, well,
Isn't he?
not that tough.
Oh.
No.
Oh. Is there piece of him on the carpet?
No. But it's got a nice, nasty crack on it now.
Oh. Where?
Can you see it?
Oh.
I'm sort of sad about that now.
You know what I would do?
What?
Yeah. I would just use some new adhesive. Put it in there so that it will go into the cracks.
Okay.
You know, pull it together.
Okay.
Be okay. Yeah, this is actually a hollow. What do you
Hollow.
call this?
I don't know. Plaster?
Plaster. Oh, honey. But he'll be okay. Yeah. Okay. Maybe you want to put him in your bag.
Yeah.
Mr. Schubert says goodbye for now.
Oh, God.
He was all cracked up by our great presentation here by
Yeah.
his daddy. Was this new or old?
That's old.
Okay. Yeah, you could, like types of Gorilla Glue or something like that. But
How would you get in there?
there's stuff that is made so that it'll just like seep into the cracks. I would go to Menards, for example. You know
Okay.
Menards?
Yeah.
Hardware store up here on 23.
Yeah, got it.
They have a huge selection of stuff. And if you trust it, I'd take you to the store
Okay.
and ask one of the guys looking at the thing to suggest which one they would use. But I think if you got some good adhesive on in there, it would pull it
Here,
together.
let's put him to bed.
Okay.
Nice soft cushion you
Sorry
there.
about that, buddy.
Thanks. All right.
He was a
Well,
little too far on the edge.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I want to take off my hat now.
Okay. Are we moving
Because-
into another theme?
It's now time for PSI at the movies.
Okay.
PSI at the
The
movies. Yes. This will be interesting. Yeah. Okay. Welcome to PSI at the movies. So where the lights and cameras are in action, I bring to you an old movie. I think it's from the 1940s. It's old Hollywood. Rhapsody, starring Elizabeth Taylor.
Whoa.
Check it out.
Who's the coach?
Who's the co-star? The co-star is, let me see if I can find it here. Vittorio Gassman. He plays violinist Paul Bronte. It's a 1954 film. 1954 film. It stars Elizabeth Taylor. She plays a piano student at a big music school, big time. The movie was made in 1954. The director is one Charles Vidor. More about him a little later. So, the cast: Louise Durant, played by Elizabeth Taylor. Paul Bronte, he plays a violin student. Vittorio Gassman. The character, James Guest, a piano student, is played by John Erickson. Nicholas Durant is played by Louis Calhern. He played his Elizabeth Taylor's father. He plays the character's father. Michael Chekhov, plays whoa! I'm getting the names mixed up here. Professor Schumann. I think he's a piano professor. Is played by Michael Chekhov. And Bruno Fürst is played by Richard Hageman. He's the conductor he plays the conductor of the orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. I'll bring it up forward so everybody can take a good look at it. My mother told me about this movie.
This looks like a really wonderful film. I mean, it's kind of everything going for it. It's post-World War II,
Yeah.
1954.
Yep.
It's filmed in all kinds of wonderful cities in Europe. It's all this romance stuff. And the really great thing, because you never make a movie hardly at all
No.
nowadays about this.
But they got some major artists.
Classical
playing this
music,
movie.
you know.
Yes.
That it's basically Elizabeth Taylor
Yep.
is playing such a 50s type of woman.
Yep.
I stayed just a teeny bit off.
Okay.
In the United States, there's probably a lot of places in the world, but in the United States, because except for Hawaii, we managed to be free of any home front warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And we had our industry, the whole industry was engaged to win the war. A lot of the guys were in the military all over the place fighting around the globe. So the women were actually brought in and were working jobs, factory jobs, lots of them all over the place. And they built missiles called Rosie the Riveter. You know, it was the famous cartoon or poster lady, Rosie the Riveter. Then when the war was over, all these soldiers came back. There was an opportunity for them to get an education.
Yeah.
I forget what they called the program, but you could go to school, get yourself a bachelor's degree or something you want to do. There's also another aspect of a great movement west, because some of the guys had gone west from the east and trained to fight in the Pacific. And they liked it out there. So that was when Route 66 began to take off, and people would go from Chicago all the way through to Santa Monica. And then television and the movies got back into the thing. We were in the middle of the Cold War, the Red Scare, which Senator McCarthy from Wisconsin started. But basically, I think what the country was trying, what our country was trying to do, refabricate society, change it from a war economy and a war status to a post one. And one of the things it meant was there had been a number of casualties, of course, in the war. Mm-hmm. So we need to have babies. We need to grow the population. Well, we needed the women to do that. And they figured that the women better be home, you know, raising the kids and making babies and stuff. And then the guys who came back could have jobs and work and everything, because otherwise they would have had to compete with the women for the very same jobs. So women were kind of pushed out of being self-sustaining and kind of in their own thing, like League of Their Own.
League of Their Own.
The baseball game, right? With the girls, ladies. Donna Reed show and all those kind of things became quite popular, you know. She's the perfect Beaver. Mother, Leave It to Beaver. Well, it's hard to imagine when you think about who she was ultimately, Elizabeth Taylor. But she did the same stuff. She was a great actress. She knew what to do. Yeah. In this period, in the early 50s, women were supposed to be demure and a little naive, and they knew how to serve. If they were a well-trained woman by their mother, they knew how to please their man in every way. That was the thing. And so this is what this film was clearly about. So this is Liz Taylor. I mean, how many husbands and how many times was Richard Taylor one of the husbands and all that? But
well, you're close to it.
Back in the 50s, she was such a lithe and lovely. She was a very attractive lady. Who was that horse movie that she's made?
National Velvet.
That was an incredible movie. Yeah, she was a child prodigy.
Oh, yeah, she was.
She was an amazing actress. But so in this film, she's torn between two possible loves: a concert violinist and a concert pianist.
Yes.
And of course, the way it's interesting, the way it writes it, she needs to figure out which one to choose in order to complete her life, which just seems to be this day and age. Like I can imagine some friends of mine going. But this was the world back at that time, and it's black and white. It's filmed in post-war Europe, where they're trying to restore Paris and Zurich and all these beautiful cities.
Is it black and white?
It looks like it is.
Let's see.
I think so. But still on the back if it's from the film. It looks like it is.
Okay.
But anyway.
Oh, color by Technicolor.
Oh, there you go.
So it is in color.
Wow.
It is in color.
Well, this is going to be cool movies.
Yes.
But good for you.
But anyway,
So you got it for $1.
yes, I did.
This guy.
So anyways, okay. So I gave you the cast. Now, the musicians, okay. This is quite a roster here. The violinist is the one and only Michael Rabin.
Wow.
R-A-B-I-N.
Michael Rabin was on
Michael
the faculty at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
He was.
When I was there.
Well, he's the violinist.
Ruggiero Ricci and Michael Rabin,
Yeah.
Norman Paolo, and Barton Manugia were all there.
Yeah.
Oh,
He was.
one other guy, too. I forget his name now.
Yeah, he was in this. He's playing this in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The pianist. The pianist is the one and only Claudio Arrau. And it is the only place you will get to hear Claudio Arrau perform the Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto. I don't think he has a CD recording of that anywhere.
Wow.
But he does play the Second Concerto in
He
this
did a
movie.
bunch of movies when he was younger.
Oh yeah, he did.
Didn't he play Liszt?
He did play Liszt. He had the hair and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, he did. So I mean, he was a good looking fella, you know, in his
Yes, he
you know,
was.
in his day. And plus, he was he was dependable, sure fingered, you know. So, but anyways, more about Charles Vidor, the director of this movie. So apparently, he was born in 1900, died in 1959, and from all accounts, he was not an easy man to get along with, particularly when he was directing film.
Vidor?
Charles Vidor.
Now, he's not in any way related to the organist. Is he?
No, not the organist.
Symphony composer?
No, not him. That's with a W-I-D.
Oh, this is a V-I-D?
This is a B-I-D.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, despite the the similar names. He was in World War I. He was a lieutenant in the Austro-German or Austro-Hungarian infantry. After the war, 1924, he came to the U.S. and he just started directing films. He found his way somehow, weaseled his way to the film industry and started making short films at first. But his big breaks were, let's see, 1944, starring Cornel Wilde, Merle Oberon, and Paul Mooney in Song to Remember, which was followed by two movies starring Rita Hayworth in the movies Cover Girl, 1944, and Gilda in 1946.
Wow.
So he did direct Gilda.
Wow.
And, that's practically his, iconic masterpiece right there. Let's see, 1955. He worked with Doris Day and James Cagney in the movie Love Me or Leave Me.
Cool.
1956, Grace Kelly in The Swan.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big hit. 1957, Frank Sinatra, Joker is Wild. And his final film, which came in 1960, well, this movie came out after he died.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1960. And it stars Dirk Bogarde and the actress Capucine. Song Without End. It's one about Franz Liszt.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I'm sure there were more movies that he did, but this was the basic gist of his career. Like I said, from what I read, he was not an easy man to get along with. He was married 3 or 4 times. So, but that is Rhapsody. Now, about this movie, it's interesting. I mean, it's a story that I think has been told so many times. Music students at a school, they fall in love. One of them winds up with the opportunity for a world-class career. And so he goes off and creates this career. He's playing on the radio. He's making recordings, and she's back at the school waiting for him, and he doesn't come back.
Oh.
And so, anyways, eventually she finds out that there was another musician at the school that winds up obsessing about her. And so they wind up forming a friendship, which eventually becomes, love by the end of the movie. So she has a choice between the violinist and the pianist. Who do you think wins?
Well, I think
the pianist.
I think the pianist would.
You think the pianist win? Is it
because the violinist? I mean, they're a bit of a prima donna, right? So.
We'll be sure to let Brett and Eddie do that violinist. Can't hold no that. I'm just kidding. But yeah, he's right. The pianist wins on this one.
Oh,
all right, for
me.
us, yes. Right. So yes, for us. So, but anyways, as far as movies go, it's interesting. And I hate to say it, but in a lot of ways, I see this kind of story happen when I was an undergrad. It happens. I hate to say it, and lots of them with even much more dire consequences than what this movie lets on. So, but anyways, that is it for.
Is that it for the movies?
No, for the movies. That's the only movie I brought over.
Okay.
So I mean, that took a good segment.
I just bought myself a copy of this.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh,
$12.
you bought a copy?
I bought a copy online.
Oh, lucky you.
Through eBay, I found a copy of it.
Wonderful.
It's $4 shipping, so it was $8.
Wow.
A lot more than you paid for yours, but
but it's okay. It's worth it. Okay, so you'll definitely worth it. Okay. Now let's go to you want to go to a new segment?
A news segment?
Well, not a news segment, but a different segment.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Well, PSI.
Which one is it?
PSI. All pieces considered.
Oh, all pieces considered. Okay.
This is Okay. All right. Here we go, folks. Welcome to PSI. All pieces considered.
Cool.
And so I bring to you a work. This is called Fantasia on an Ostinato for solo piano by American composer John Corigliano. Here, let me bring it up.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, John Corigliano, Fantasia on an Ostinato for solo piano. Published by George Shermer, distributed by Howlander Publishing Corporation. This work was commissioned for the 7th Van Cliburn International Piano Competition and made possible by a generous grant from the Amon G. Carter Foundation. The 7th, and I'm thinking that this was probably 1985, I believe. 1985. This work is dedicated to the Israeli pianist Sheldon Shkolnik. I've heard his name maybe 2 or 3 times from what I recall. Let's see. I watched the competition that this was premiered on, and the winner of the best performance of a new work was Santiago Rodriguez. Yes, and it was.
I remember him. I actually heard him live.
You heard him live?
Yeah, I think he played in Springfield or Dayton.
Wow.
Back when he was really young and just on the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, Santiago Rodriguez. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, he's very good.
Oh, he was really great. He was
brilliant.
He was kind of a tall guy with long arms or big hands and stuff.
He's tall? Really?
Ish, yeah.
He looks short on video.
But I remember, at least when he was young, I mean, Professor Wynn had good sized hands.
Yeah.
He just reminded, because, I've talked about Michael.
Yeah.
I remember, but I forget he played, I don't remember. But I remember him, yeah. I think it's possible it was with the Springfield Symphony Orchestra.
Wow.
John Frieda conducted. He was a great conductor.
Wow.
John Frieda apprenticed with George Sell in Cleveland.
Wow.
We were quite lucky.
But let me read to you what the program note is here. It says, Fantasia on an ostinato is based on a famous repetitive passage by Ludwig van Beethoven. Symphony No. 7, second movement, to be exact. That music is unique in Beethoven's output because of a relentless ostinato that continues, unvaried, except for a long crescendo and added accompanimental voices for over 4 minutes. Beethoven's near minimalistic use of his material and my own desire to write a piece in which the performer is responsible for decisions concerning the durations of repeated patterns led to my first experiment in so-called minimalist techniques. He continues. I approached this task with mixed feelings about the contemporary phenomenon known as minimalism. For a while, I admired its emphasis on attractive textures and its occasional ability to achieve a hypnotic quality, not unlike some late Beethoven, he says. I do not care for its excessive repetition, its lack of architecture, and its overall emotional sterility. In Fantasia on an ostinato, I attempted to combine the attractive aspects of minimalism with convincing structure and emotional expression. My method was to parallel the binary form of the Beethoven 7th Symphony ostinato by dividing the Fantasia into 2 parts. The first explores the rhythmic elements of the ostinato as well as the harmonic implications of its first half. The second part develops and extends the ostinato's second half, transforming its pungent major-minor descent into a chain of harmonies over which a series of patterns grows continually more ornate. This climaxes in a return of the obsessive Beethoven rhythm and, finally, the appearance of the Beethoven theme itself. Now, here he says, note to the performer. The pianist should be aware that color, variety, and imagination are essential to a successful performance of this piece. The performer's sense of fantasy and, in the central section, his or her decisions concerning durations of the repeated patterns will exert considerable influence on the work's final shape, which is intended to vary from performance to performance. John Corigliano. Duration, circa 12 minutes. Now, I listened to several recordings of this work before I read the program notes on this. And there are a few performances on YouTube of this. I think one was done by a Russian and the other one is Japanese, but there's also a performance of Daniel Trifonov on it. But he starts on the 3rd or 4th page. That's where the performance actually starts. But I think he did the whole thing because you could still hear residue. It's live performance.
And they only managed to guess most of it.
Yeah, they got, it's, like I said, but it finishes, though. He gets to the end, but they don't, like I said, it doesn't start till his video doesn't start till the 2nd or 3rd page. Now, the other performance of this is recorded on CD. It's a studio recording of Helen Grimaud.
Really?
Surprisingly. Very different in approach
Mm-hmm.
from Trifonov's recording and the others as well.
Mm-hmm.
She makes more use of the piano as a percussive instrument in some episodes here and there. This work is actually paired with the Choral Fantasy on the same CD.
With Grimaud.
With Grimaud.
Wow, that would be interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, Choral Fantasy and the Fantasia on the Ostinato. So, but anyways, I've tried this piece.
You really?
I did! It's near impossible because he's got metronome markings on some of it, and and you're working with 2 or 3 different metronome markings on it, and he leaves so much of it to chance. It's because we've been as a pianist we're conditioned to work metrically, right? One tempo, with a few tempo fluctuations here and there, ritardandos and expressive phrasing and things. But it's very difficult work. It's hard. It is, my first impression of it, listening to it, was that I noticed that you could actually hear some phrases. And yes, he does say that there's some hypnotic effect and some little neat, repetitive color to it. But he says he wanted to make it more structured and make it more emotional. He wanted to make it an emotional experience. And he does that. That's what I read. That's what I noticed about it when I first heard the work on some of the videos I've been watching and listening to on YouTube. And I'm glad I was correct, in my assessment when I read the program notes. That he was trying to be, he had a little bit more traditional structures and things worked into it. So, but you'll be surprised. Guess where he's at right now?
He's still alive.
Yeah, he's still alive. He's in Boulder at your university, your alma mater.
Is he really?
Yeah, he is. He's there because they are supposed to be performing a bunch of his orchestra works. I don't know if he's doing it this
he's not
summer.
on the faculty meeting. He's just
he's there for
residence.
Yeah, in residence. So they either did it over spring or they're doing it this summer. They're performing a bunch of his orchestra works over there. So, but now my memories of John Corigliano is not just I don't remember him just because he was commissioned at the band clavier competition, but he was artist in residence for a year or two right here at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
It was right here at Ohio State, and it was the year that he won an Oscar for Best Film Score.
What was it?
For the movie The Red Violin.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was here when he won.
Wow.
So, but he didn't go to the Oscars. He stayed right here in Columbus, and so he wasn't present, but he was still here in Columbus.
I know him in connection with
So
when I was growing up. Well, let's put it this way. Yeah, I was growing up, and was studying with Professor Wynn. I think that's what I began to hear about it and stuff like that. He was taken on by the Eastern kind of greater New York establishment.
Mm-hmm.
Bernstein supported him, played his music.
Yes.
He used to hang out with Samuel Barber and his partner.
Yes, he did. Menotti.
Giancarlo Menotti.
Yeah.
So I didn't know this about him, but it makes sense. He was born in New York City, 1938, 10th of February. He's an Aquarian, I think.
Yeah.
Still Aquarian.
Now, I'm not sure, okay, don't quote me on this, but on Leonard Bernstein's recording of the Grand Canyon Suite, I noticed in on the linear notes that the solo violinist was John Corigliano.
Yeah, but you know who that was?
Was it his dad or an uncle? Or?
His father was concertmaster of the New York Philharmonic.
He was! Okay! was wondering about
Same
that.
name. So he's technically John Carruthers Jr. probably,
Yeah.
but I never saw him use the junior.
Yeah.
Well, he was a New York boy. He went to
Okay.
Columbia, Manhattan School, and then in the 70s he taught at the Manhattan School, City University of New York. He was a distinguished professor by then.
Yeah.
74, wow, he was only 36 years old. 87, he was composer in residence for Chicago Symphony, which was,
I don't know. This is 1985.
87 says copyright.
Oh, it does say?
Yeah.
Is that? Okay, I could be wrong.
Wow, and then he was at OSU when you were there, or Wild was there.
Earl Wild was here, and so was him, and so was Andre Laplante.
Did you?
Roster.
Oh, did you show it to him?
Well, I think I did, but I'll show it again. Here you go. Take another look. So yes, I did try it. It's
Really, I don't know.
It's impossible.
Maybe not there yet, but
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the quality of his composing,
Yeah.
I mean, he deserves to be in there with Copland and Barber and all those
Oh,
people.
yeah.
Just later American 20th century.
Yeah.
There's also a guy I really like, but his name Michael with T, Michael T something.
Torquay?
Michael Torquay.
Yeah.
There's another great composer. I think he might be a little younger
Okay.
than Corigliano.
I'll
Maybe
have to
by
look him up.
a decade or two.
Yeah.
I met him.
You met Michael Torquay?
Michael Torquay was working at the time when I was in Madison, Ellsworth. He came with this really cool contemporary ensemble, big group, young people from Milwaukee, and did a piano concerto kind of thing. But it was piano with winds, and Michael Torquay played the piano part.
Huh. He did a piano concerto.
With winds,
Winds.
not a full.
Okay, I'm trying to think what would it be, the Stravinsky? There's a concertino for
No, it's his piece.
It's his work.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right.
It was really quite a cool concert. It was very exciting.
Wow.
I was really excited about their work and stuff, and I actually spoke with him at the time about the possibility of maybe working with him between Madison and Milwaukee.
Wow.
It was kind of cool, but eventually I moved on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember some stories about Barber and Corigliano. They kind of, him and Menotti took him under their wing, and he spent a lot of time at their house and their parties at the Poconos.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Part of that crowd.
Okay.
But very nurturing, and I remember, wow, people like Menotti and Samuel Barber's your mentors.
Okay.
Artistic in a sense,
yeah.
or creative mentors. Wow.
Yeah. Well, if you go on YouTube, there's a few interview videos on there. And I was struck by the one video they titled Composing is a battle with myself. It basically is what it is. And I'm glad to hear that. Because, even when I try to compose, it's, that whole operetta thing that I tried to write.
Yeah.
I struggled with that thing so much. That sucker took 6 years out of my life.
I would hope that we can find a way to produce that show eventually. Now, didn't Corigliano do Corigliano, what I remember? Is he the one that wrote a piece based upon the Pied Piper?
Pipe.
It's like was it a flute or a clarinet, concerto-ish kind of thing, but it's based on the idea of the Pied Piper of Hamlet. You know that? The story?
Yeah, I know the story.
Pied Piper was a guy in the medieval. He was hired to come into the city and lead the mice out of the city.
Yeah.
And he did.
He does.
He had this magic flute he could play, or whatever it was, recorder or clarinet of it. Supposedly, the way the story goes, he took the mice out of town.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they went, but they left the city. But then the city didn't pay him.
Yeah. Big mistake.
And so, as to get back at him, he got his whistle out and started playing it. And he took all the children out of the city.
Yeah.
And they left with him. Now, I don't know the end of that story. Did the people pay up, get their kids back? Or did they lose all the kids?
I don't know. From what I remember as a kid, that it does have a happy ending. Okay.
So
but I remember they did a movie years ago, back in 1971 or 72, like that. It was a movie, and the king was played by Jim Backus.
Really?
Mr. Howell.
Really?
Oh, yes. And so, yeah, it was an interesting movie. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but you know what, though? I think I might actually have that movie somewhere in my house.
Really?
Yeah. But, no, I don't remember the whole entire story, but I do remember when the movie came out. It was quite interesting. The Pied Piper, he had sort of a playful devil type character.
Yeah.
You know, his character in the movie had sort of this goatee and the mustache that went like this and the dark eyebrows that were like this. And he sort of pranced around, playing his recorder, and just looked around and, smiling and playing, and that was it, Are you looking it up now?
I'm looking him up to see if there's a list of his music. There's the red violin. Oh, wait, shit. I'm sorry. What did I say? Bleep. There's a list of compositions. They did the opera The Ghost of Versailles.
Yes. I heard the broadcast on the radio once. That's a really neat work.
Oh, he wrote some big stuff. There's a list here. I'm looking in. Holy crap! Yeah, the Pied Piper Fantasy.
The Pied Piper
from 1982 for flute and orchestra because I think a very adept flutist at Wittenberg, she was older than me, played it with a piano reduction. I don't know who played for her. But that's where I think I'd learned about this piece, the Pied Piper Fantasy.
Huh.
She played it as a senior recital piece.
Wow.
John Cordiano's Pied Piper Fantasy. Wittenberg was pretty decent stuff going on.
Yeah.
In terms of, I mean, there were high, perfectly high standards.
Yeah.
And there was folks there that could really meet the standards. But yeah, that's where I knew about that piece.
Yeah.
Good God, there's a huge list of
I know there's a huge
compositions
list.
by that boy.
Yeah, he's busy.
That boy,
he's a very busy boy.
But wow, he's on board now for this.
Yeah.
More than 38 to 62.
Yeah.
He's 86 years old. He's an old guy now.
Yeah.
Not young, sexy, handsome guy.
Well, yeah, but
guy.
on his video, they showed his most recent video. It just came out like 11 months ago.
Yeah.
And really, he still looks pretty good.
Good for
He's
him.
up there at 80.
I should be careful talking. I think that's. I work with the organization, the Columbus Spinner Corps.
Yeah.
And then there's the Dominant Corps with us as well. We've got ages in there anywhere from probably mid-20s to early 80s. Well, there's a lady that just had a birthday, or is going to have her birthday. 96. She's still singing, Tony.
Wow.
The extraordinary thing to me is these people who are like 80 and older, like the president or vice president, who I had lunch with recently. He could pass for his late 50s.
Really?
Maybe 60. The guy's 76 years old.
Not bad.
It's just extraordinary to me. Old doesn't look like or behave like it did when I was a little boy.
No, it doesn't.
There was a certain kind of way that people behave. You get to a certain age. And you know, everything I always heard growing up, act your age, young man.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody else probably did, or that was what they're supposed to do. But,
did you read the back of this?
Yeah.
He also wrote the soundtrack to the movie Altered States.
Yeah, that's in
1980. Altered States.
That was with William
Hurt.
For William Hurt.
Yeah, I know.
That's where he does the experiments as a professor and he becomes a caveman.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Neanderthal or
wicked.
something.
That was a wicked movie.
It was a spooky movie.
Oh, it
I
scared
think
the
it's.
crap out of
I
me.
think it still is.
Oh,
I
of
saw
course
it-
it is.
I saw it probably within the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is an eerie movie, really weird.
Oh yeah, it was a very weird movie.
He Altered States.
1980.
William Hurt. Wow, he's a great actor.
Yeah, he was-
1980. Yeah.
He received an Academy Award nomination for soundtrack for that movie.
You should watch that movie, people.
Yeah, Altered States.
You don't have a copy of that. Probably.
What,
You
Altered
should have all
States?
the movies.
Oh yeah, I've seen. I don't
don't
have
think
a
I have
movie
this one
Altered
myself.
States, but I do have Red Violin though.
Do you?
I do have Red Violin. It's
I
a
don't
beautiful
know if
movie.
we got Red Violin or not. I
Yeah.
saw it. Actually, where I saw it was, just a made Digiturk television.
Yeah.
Like those years in Cyprus.
Yeah.
Wonderful movies.
You know who plays
There's
that
like 6
soundtrack?
different stations at least that have just movie channels.
You know who plays the violin on the soundtrack, right? Joshua Bell.
Ah, that's right.
It was Joshua Bell.
I'm sure that's why he was nominated for it. Too.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Well, this brings us to another segment. You ready for another segment? I mean, we're at 2:04 right now.
Okay. Yeah,
You
we
okay
can
with
go
it?
on for another
Okay.
15 minutes, maybe.
Okay. Our featured composer. Da, 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 da.
Okay, we don't have any special music, I think, for that.
No, we don't. Maybe we will. Okay, one of these
I'm not
things.
sure
Well,
if it's good to segment everything like that, but
okay. Well, it's not a bad idea. We'll talk about it later. Anyways, the featured composer for
today
today.
we had APC, the Thrifter. Or how do you call it now? Oh,
What?
what do we call ourselves? PSI.
PSI. Marc Elmer's
The
PSI.
Thrifter thing.
Oh, High Plains Thrifter.
High Plains Thrifter.
Yeah.
And then we did a movie
We did the movies.
at the movies.
And then we did All Pieces Considered.
Okay, so I have to come up with music for the Thrifter. Okay.
Okay.
And so this is our composer of the week? Or
Yes,
something?
Composer of the Week.
Okay.
And that composer, we haven't discussed Russians yet.
Ooh.
So I brought in.
We'll talk to Dimitri about it.
Yes.
He could have sent us some information.
Yeah. Could have. The composer is Anatol Lyadov,
Oh, the other.
the other Russian.
Yeah.
Here.
Wow.
Now,
Did you buy all this stuff fresh at, what you call it?
I bought it at Ohio University.
Really?
Not Ohio University. University
Wow.
Music Store.
Oh,
This was before they closed.
You got good deals on them.
Oh,
paid
yeah.
List price?
Yeah,
So you bought all these for $32.
yeah,
Good for you.
yeah. This was at the University Music Store. It was on High Street. Remember it?
Good God.
It's right by the
All
violin loft.
I don't know Athens that well.
No, it's not Athens.
You said Ohio or Ohio State?
I made a mistake. It's called the University Music Store.
And where is it?
It's in Clintonville, just south on 23.
Is it still there?
It is no longer there.
Where was it?
It was right next to a chocolate store and just a few houses from south of the violin loft.
Oh, down there.
Yeah.
There's like that Ritzy's hamburger place in that neighborhood.
Yeah. Fitzy's.
Before you get down to
It's before Henderson.
yeah, so it's before you get down to the coffee place down there
Yeah.
and there and all that. It's
Yeah.
just always up.
Yeah.
Now there's a flag store on the one side and there's the violin shop.
Yeah.
The other, and there is that
But
still there.
But if you're
chocolate-
going south, yes, the
shop
Anthony
right
Thomas store,
Yeah.
I think.
It's
Yeah,
not
if you-
Anthony Thomas, somebody else.
It's
but
somebody
yeah.
else, yeah. But if you're going south on 23,
Yeah.
the store was on your left.
By
The bicycle store. Remember the bicycle store that used to be there?
no, I don't know that
Okay.
much history
All
here.
right. Anyways, it was there.
Cool, that's too bad.
But yeah, I know it was sad. I was in a lot of ways it was a sad and happy moment because I didn't want the store to close because it was closer to me than the other music stores. But the good thing about it was they were very dependable, and they had all this music on sale before their clearance sale before they closed. So, anyways, Anatol Lyadov, the unsung hero of Moscow Conservatory, born 1855 died in 1904. So not a very long life. He was, what, 59?
Those guys tended to go out a bit earlier, but I think it was just the nature of Russian life in the cold in the winter and the heavy drinking and rich food and all that. You don't see a lot of them guys make it at 70 in the 19th century.
All right. No, he was not a Moscow Conservatory student. He was in St. Petersburg,
probably. Because back in those days, St. Petersburg was the capital of Russia. That's where the Tsar was and all that. Moscow was a summer getaway, I think.
Originally, the first time it was called the Imperial Conservatory of Moscow.
Well, I thought, yes, it would have been. But my understanding was when we were talking about Rubinstein, and with the ladies' help who had money, he said, well, they started this Russian musical society thing, which within about 4 years became the St. Petersburg Conservatory. And I thought that was first, because then, with his brother, Nikolai, he's the one who's set up the Moscow Conservatory.
Okay.
I think St. Petersburg was first.
Oh,
and then Moscow was not that long down the road. But I think, if I remember, Moscow, of course, is the capital now. But back in the day, I think that was the summer kind of palace area. The Tsar was in Leningrad, back in their day, St. Petersburg, which was built by Peter the Great with the concentric canals and all this and stuff. I think the Tsars had been there for a long time, and then they would go east to Moscow because it was cooler. I don't mean to get on a big thing with this, but I was just thinking about that. Anyway, go ahead.
So, anyways, 1870.
So Lyudov would have been at St. Petersburg.
Yes.
Because he's kind of early in the game.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely like mid-19th century.
Oh, yeah. This was this is before PC's Rachmaninoff, for Pete's sakes. So, 1870, he enters St. Petersburg to study piano and violin. But he later gives that up to study counterpoint and the fugue and composition with Rimsky-Korsakov. But it didn't take long for him to get expelled from the class.
Wow.
Because he kept being absent. He just didn't show up. So, but anyways, apparently this guy comes from a whole family of musicians. Not much is known about his father, his biological father, but his stepfather was Konstantin Lyudov, and he was the conductor of the Imperial Opera Company. His grandfather, Nikolai Lyudov, was also a conductor, but of the Petersburg Philharmonic Society. Mom, I only have here her first initial V, last name Antipova, was a pianist. That's Mom. And look at this. Uncle Alexander, also a conductor of the Orchestra of the Imperial Ballroom. So he has 3 conductors in his family. Mother was a pianist. Oh, and a sister who was a dramatic actress. Amazing, huh? Now, I got 2 stories about Anatol Lyudov. He was not quite as productive, and his output is extremely limited. So at least these 4 volumes of piano music right here. This is it. These are the complete works. He wrote a few orchestral works, but they're not what we would call large scale. He didn't write any symphonies. offhand, I recall some shorter symphonic poems. One called Baba Yaga, which is based on the witch legend. There's another one called The Enchanted Lake, which is originally was supposed to be an opera, but he never got started on it. So it just remained an orchestral work, basically, The Enchanted Lake. There was also another symphonic work called The Kikomora, which was also supposed to be an opera idea, but once again, he never got it started. There's sketches, but otherwise he didn't move on. Now, the story for why he had these ideas and incompleted works, there's two different stories behind this. Some of his fellow musicians said that he was extremely lazy. Okay, which probably could be the case why he got expelled from Korsakov's composition class. But there's also the other story from some of his other friends that say that he was very, very self-critical. Very, very self-critical. So, but he eventually was able to find work as a teacher at St. Petersburg in 1878. So he eventually found himself as a faculty member in 1878. Get this, he has two former students who became, quite, well known. One, Nikolai Miaskovsky. Recognize that name?
Yep.
Miaskovsky. I'd like to do some research on him. I remember seeing a while back a collection of his piano sonatas, Nikolai Miaskovsky, and I was sad to find out, reading in a small bio about him, that he eventually committed suicide.
Miaskovsky?
Miaskovsky is what I heard. Now, the other student of his that achieved world-class fame, Sergei Prokofiev.
Oh.
He was one of his students. Wow. Huh?
Yeah.
Now, he was from accounts told, he was not a very patient teacher. One of the most humorous things that he used to tell some of his students, he would get frustrated with them and say, "Go to Strauss," or "Go to Debussy," which is his own equivalent to saying, "Go to hell."
Oh.
So, otherwise, he had small talents. Word of mouth said that he was a very adept whistler. So he sometimes when he composed, he would whistle a theme, and they said he was a very adept whistler, almost to the point where he could have been like a virtuoso whistler, equivalent to a flute player. He just did those things. Have you ever done any, Leonardo?
No, I was looking through it.
Yeah.
There is a famous song that's infamously recorded by Florence Foster Jenkins. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, which one?
You don't know Florence Foster Jenkins, FFJ?
Don't know Jenkins.
Maybe we should talk about her sometime. She's a historic character you want to know about. But one of the songs that she does, I think it's originally for violin.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called the treasure box, the jewelry box, or something.
Oh, the music box. Yeah.
And there's a song version of it, which FFJ does infamously.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I know about it. But I'm looking at the music in here.
Yeah.
I have a book, and there's a second book that's still available. I've seen it on eBay. But it's the first book. It's an old volume of compiled Russian composers. Yeah. And I think that the one I have is earlier 19th through mostly 19th. There's some early Rachmaninoff at the end of the book.
Yeah.
And then there's a continuation I gather that I think that these two books and the composer representative from the Tsarist period.
Yeah.
And Leonov is in there.
Yeah.
What I see, certainly, and if this is, and I think it is, it's historically laid out.
Yeah.
What was his years?
It was 1855
Yeah.
to 1904.
Yeah, so it didn't live so long. But
Yeah.
55 means that by the time he was 25 or 30, that's 1880 to 1885.
Yeah.
So what I see here in the beginning,
Yeah.
Greek-like,
Yes.
what do they call the lyric pieces? Very
Yeah.
things like that. Greek's lyric pieces is an interesting set. There's that, and then there are the dances, right? The
Yeah.
Norwegian dances.
Yeah.
The lyric pieces are interesting because there's early opus numbers which are pretty simple. I mean, those of us pianists and stuff, we know this stuff. And you can give it to young people to learn to do. I don't think any of the lyric pieces of Greek become impossible to play, certainly not like things in the concerto.
Yeah.
But certainly musically they become deeper and more interesting, I think, as he goes along. It's interesting, he starts the whole set
With an arietta.
the ariette, or whatever he calls it.
Yeah, the arietta.
And then he finishes the whole set decades later with the same piece, but now it's different.
Yeah.
I forget, one is a pure just waltz, and then the other one is like more like a memory or something.
Yeah.
Lovely setting. And there's some wonderful pieces in there.
Yeah.
At Your Feet, Niels Gade, I'm thinking of, and isn't the one that everybody knows,
Butterfly.
Butterfly.
Yeah.
Probably
The waltz in A minor. Da, 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 da,
So all kinds of, well, this looks like that. In the early stuff, stylistically, it looks a little squarish, like he gets an idea and he sticks with that idea.
Yeah.
Which may actually be kind of also true of what Greek does in a way. Because I don't think a ballad-like narrative style is appropriate for those short kind of pieces. You can't tell your story in such a tiny space. But then I looked at the book 4. There's a set of theme and variations, which is quite interesting. I mean, challenging. There's some seriously good writing there. And he has interesting, some mazurkas in here at the end. Frankly, they look to me like middle Chopin later. Not quite late Chopin, but great Chopin, like the Opus 40s. Yeah. Opus 35, Opus 40, Opus 50, but not the very last ones.
Yeah.
Some of that kind of writing here, more near the end. But he only made it to 1905. So Scriabin's just crawling out of his shell. Right? Yeah. 10 years to go before, 10 years to go before the first Russian Revolution.
Yeah.
So he lived totally within that Tsar's pocket.
Yeah, so in 1900, let's see, the Rachmaninoff Concerto No. 2 would have been already on.
1903?
Well, he died in 1904.
04.
Okay, but the concerto itself didn't come out till about 1900.
And Rachmaninoff was born in the 1870s.
1875.
Right? Yeah. So he was 25-ish.
Yeah.
Well, you might show him one of the covers.
Okay, I'll show him. All right.
It's interesting. It's Kerneman, which is, I think, is how I have the 4 books of Balakirev that I bought in Serbia music store. This is Kerneman Budapest, which is an interesting, kind of like Bärenreiter in Germany, and between Henle and Bärenreiter, this is a cheaper created or text.
Yeah.
Very nice paper, nice creations. And Melbay, which is Hal Leonard, I'm sure is the American representative for them. But I bought my Balakirevs pretty cheap too.
Yeah.
I think it was, I think I got all 4 books with over $20, $25.
Yeah.
I paid what were they called? But,
Oh yeah.
what's it called? Serbian somethings. I
Yeah.
forget what they're called.
But you know,
They're
my
good books.
yeah,
Nice paper, very readable.
very readable. I'll show
And
you.
so you yourself put any of this stuff?
I dabbled with it.
Yeah.
I dabbled with it.
And?
And okay, here's my impression of what the music is like. Okay, if Tchaikovsky was more adept as a pianist, I mean, in a more traditional like Chopin way, he would have sounded something like this.
I can see that. I mean,
There's something
I
about
would
there's
say-
something. It's very it's got that filigree.
looks
There's
like it is.
portions of it that sounds like the Chopin Etude Opus 10 number 11, the E flat one where he's got portions of that, but there's also figurations that are almost reminiscent of like the impromptus.
Yes.
There's that
And I get the impression
the
might
F sharp minor prelude.
he might have had a bit of an expanse.
Yeah,
Because I saw some things in there where there's some chords that go, let's say, from E above middle C and A up to, obviously it's going to be 4 and 5 is D and F sharp in the octave above. Cha-ching.
Yeah.
All these got these chords that all go up to the F sharp. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching,
Yeah.
And there's some ninths I saw in there.
Yeah.
Where the voices are double, goes F sharp to E, but
Yeah.
the hand is based in an A major 6/4 position, but it goes the melody is yadam. I have a feeling he had kind of largish hands.
Yeah.
Or decent expanse.
Yeah. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but at the St. Petersburg, there were gold medals given for piano. He didn't get one. He got a silver medal.
Well, it's good
So,
for him.
yeah, it's good for him.
Still.
Now, there are
As
pianists
for
that have
being
recorded
lazy,
his work.
if he was really lazy, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good for a silver medal. Yeah, but you know there are pianists that have recorded his work. One that just comes off the top of my head is Boris Berezovsky.
Berezovsky, yeah.
Berezovsky has recorded his work, and so has Anton Querty. Otherwise, that music box piece, you know, there was a few pianists that recorded it. Joseph Hoffman, for one.
He played his piano solo.
Rachmaninoff did it.
And then I don't know if it was hyphens or not, but it was transcribed for violin and piano as well.
Or was it?
But infamously, if you don't know, you should look her up online.
Really? Jenkins?
Florence Foster Jenkins, FFJ.
Okay.
It's possible that, I'm sure her stuff is uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah.
And then Meryl Streep did a biography movie based upon her period of
Music
her life.
at the Heart?
Was that it?
Is that it? Where she teaches in inner city schools and gives these string lessons?
No. This is where she plays Florence Foster Jenkins, the socialite and the singer. It's just like, did you ever see it?
Oh.
Kind of a crazy lady who sings off
Opera?
key and all that, yeah.
Oh, yes, I know that story, but it wasn't. Are you sure it was Meryl Streep? I think it was.
It wasn't
No, it wasn't Meryl Streep. It was. Oh, help me out. The Fatal Attraction lady, opposite Michael.
Glenn Close. You're
Glenn
right.
Close.
You're right, Glenn
It was
Close.
Glenn Close who played
What
her.
was the movie called?
I don't remember, but I know which movie you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know. What
it's
movie you're
beautifully
talking about.
done. The cinematography, the costumes, and everything. This woman was.
Yeah.
I don't think she got married. She was single, but she was the only remaining daughter of this wealthy industrialist philanthropist. I think his money was in railroads.
Yeah.
So something, like the Vanderbilts kind of thing.
Yeah.
She had money.
Oh yeah, she was
Old
very
New York
well
money
done.
before the whole Jekyll Island thing got taxes going. So
Yeah.
you got all 100% of that money. She lived in New York, she had a place, and she loved opera, and she fancied herself, as some people might, as a singer, so she liked to sing. And some of her friends supported her, probably in a more nice way, but also because she was a lady with some serious clout in terms of her money,
yeah.
what she gave it to, and this and that. And then, unfortunately, the truth was that there were some people that just were crazy about it because she was so bad. And yet they would, lie to her face and tell her she was so great and everything. But there was some famous, she did some concerts in the Carnegie, not the big hall, but the chamber, I think.
Yeah.
Recordings made. And her pianist's name, Cosmo McMoon.
Cosmo McMoon.
Cosmo McMoon.
That's a real name?
I don't know, but that's the pianist's name on the recordings. Cosmo McMoon, and he played for her quite a bit. Actually, I think he's in Wikipedia. I think you look up Cosmo McMoon. Might have been his real name.
Holy moly.
He was an odd guy himself a little bit, but she had this thing where she would do these various songs.
Okay.
And it was very much, what they call it, something tableau in the old times, where you would they wouldn't even act or something. It's more like you would do these stationary poses in costume with all this stuff, and people would be able to look at it.
Like doing Madonna's Vogue?
Something like voguing, yeah. And it was a French name, something tableau. But it was, for bored, wealthy people back in the ancient times who would dress up like mythological people and stuff like that, and they would, just hold a pose or something or like that, and people could come and look at them live. And there would be furniture and costumes and makeup and all that, and there would be a scene from a mythological story. Huh. Well, she did her kind of performances like that, where she had a different costume for each piece that she sang. Okay. You gotta listen to her Queen of the Night aria of Mozart.
Oh gosh!
Woo! It's lovely.
Oh gosh!
I mean, you gotta respect the woman in a way, because she was very serious. She was very serious about what she's doing. Okay. But it was funny because one of the things is she's wealthy, and as far as I know, she never really wasn't well off. But one of the things she would do was that she would have roses and flowers and things, especially the roses. Yeah. And she would, during one of her songs, she just cast them into the audience, And it was a big deal, and it was like if Michael Jackson took off one of his gloves. It was a real keepsake kind of thing. This is one of them. But after each song, while she was going behind stage to change her costume into the next song, piece, Cosmo would go down in the audience and try to collect as many of the flowers as he could get.
Oh gosh!
And take them back up, and she'd recycle them and use it for the
next concert. Oh god!
No, the next piece.
Oh,
cast them out again. I suppose they still make people like this, but the wildly individualistic people, from the 19th and the earlier 20th century. It's almost like horses with blinders on kind of mental concept. You lived in your own world. You had the wherewithal to do that. Yeah. You could believe in it. You didn't have these external distractions. We are forced into a kind of a willed, or we allow ourselves to be coerced into a kind of a quasi-objective perspective of the world around us. Yeah. Because we have all this equipment that can do that, makes us. But there was a period of time when there was no radio, there was no transmissions or anything. If you were lucky, the best thing you had access to was what did you call this thing?
Morse code?
Yeah, but the telegrams.
Telegram, okay.
If you could afford to send
them.
Yeah. Otherwise, it was a pre-electricity kind of world.
And talking about the telegraph.
Yeah, telegraph. And make telegrams, right? So, it's kind of cool in a way, because you only had what you could make yourself or create for yourself. Yeah. I just saw on the news where the Taliesin School in Wisconsin, which is Taliesin East, or the original Taliesin. There's Taliesin West, which is in Scottsdale, which he built out there. Taliesin East, they just recently completely redid the theater there. He had a whole compound. There's a house, the places where the students would live. There's a big studio area where all the teaching, drafting, designing went on. And Frank Lloyd Wright believed in this kind of Gesamtkunstlehre. You know, Wagner is a Gesamtkunstwerk, right?
Yeah.
Frank Lloyd Wright believed that as an architect, you needed to know the poetry, the literature, expose yourself to good music, all the high classical arts and things, because archaeology was part of that, and to understand, especially the culture of the people that you'd often be designing for.
Yeah.
You had to understand these things. So one of the things he loved is he had a theater, and they themselves would put on amateur productions, but sometimes professionals would come up and perform for them. And they just redid the theater. Very Frank Lloyd Wright, very original, completely modeled after what was there, more or less. But in a way, when I lived, I'll shut up after this,
Sure.
but when I lived in Cyprus,
Yeah.
I was teaching in North Cyprus for 8 years. It's the only official country that recognizes it is Turkey. It's still a split island. The Republic of Cyprus, which is Greek fundamentally, is part of the European Union. And as I was there, people were trading, like the European Union was trading. There's wonderful citrus, for example, that comes out of North Cyprus. For things like that, and they made some money that way. The education was one of the way they were making their money. But there were, during the times that I was there, there's no opera. There's no real, substantial symphony orchestra.
Yeah.
There's no great libraries. They didn't have these cultural things that we take for granted. My library that I sent over there and that I continued to build on the years I was there was the biggest music library in the country. Certainly a greater resource for my students than what we had in even the university library. I love it. You know what they tried to do, but I did for a period of time. Some of the best music that I heard was made by my colleagues or me. There were no distractions, as I literally call them. There were no, all this stuff that prevents us from focusing on our art. I mean, you look at these miraculous pianists that we've, because of Marston and other people, we get recordings of, or that we talk about occasionally.
Oh, yeah.
The 19th century guys that made it into the acoustic period. And really, I mean, many times, the standard was just so
astounding,
astonishing. And what did they have otherwise? You know, tea time, conversation, walks out in nature, writing letters. Not this instantaneous Instagram stuff, but you look at the collected letters of Mendelssohn and his sister, or Brahms and Clara, and all this kind of stuff. It would take, depending on where these people were writing, weeks or months for 2 letters to cross.
Yeah.
The whole sense of time, patience, spiritual and mental endurance, and perhaps I also think what was accessible, depending on where you were and who you were, to keep this busy. It took a lot of discipline and a lot of devotion and a lot of work. If you were lucky and you were a reasonably successful concert artist, for example, you would have more or less access to quite a bit of music of great composers and such. And that could keep you busy. I mean, I got stuff over here that I'll probably never play. I got books that I'll never read, cover to cover. But I'm never bored because I can always, whatever I happen to be in the mood for at the time, I can read and explore. And if it's not here, it's on the internet or in my Kindle library.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, what were we talking about that led me on to that?
I don't know. We were talking about Leonov before.
Well, anyway,
We were talking about that Florence.
Florence Foster Jenkins, yeah. Maybe I'll do a little presentation.
Oh boy! Oh,
but you should look her up.
Okay.
And if you can find that actual film,
all right.
What's her face?
Meryl Streep. No, not Meryl Streep. Glenn Close.
Glenn Close did.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I'm actually going to look that up and maybe watch it.
Oh boy!
But
well, can we finish Leodoff?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
That's okay. Leodoff. All right, Leodoff. He was instrumental in changing the lives of quite a few composers here. Okay, and how did he do that? Well, somewhere along the way in his life, he met a man named Mitrofan Belyayev, and he was in the timber business, wood, and he was also a philanthropist who, after being introduced to a very young Alexander Glasnow, became the patron of the arts. So basically, he started a publishing house for music in Leipzig, and eventually formed what is now called the Belyayev Circle. And it had everybody in here, including the Mighty Handful. Okay? It had Mussorgsky, it had Borodin, it had Korsakov, it had Glazunov, it had Cesar Cui, it had everybody. The man was wealthy. So basically, he would have been Russia's equivalent to Nadezhda von Meck.
Uh-huh.
He would have been,
the supporter for Tchaikovsky.
Yeah. So basically, it was that. Now, somewhere along the way, he also Anatol Leodoff eventually does get married.
I have an impression on the scale, though, he was probably more able to support a lot more than Nadezhda.
Oh yeah,
von Meck.
yeah, and not just
she supported Tchaikovsky, but this guy,
but not just
a whole
music.
Circle of people like Trest. There's a famous 5 big composers.
Yeah,
but then all the people around that satellite.
Yeah, and not just music. He opened up museums, arts. Yeah. So he had it all. So, but anyways, yes, Leodoff does get married, and I don't remember the name offhand, but they apparently she had quite a dowry, and they lived off a nice quiet place out in the country someplace where he never had to work another day in his life, and so he was able to supposedly devote more time to composition.
Well, that's not fair. I mean, work a day in his life. I mean, we work hard.
Yeah, we work hard. But
and
I'm talking like teaching.
In a certain kind of way, composers, my God, that would be the hardest work.
Yeah.
Somehow like squeezing blood out of yourself to give it something.
Yeah.
From my point of view.
Yeah.
And in fact, it probably paid off because Book 4 is a lot more interesting musically than Book 1.
Yes, it is. Now, like I said, Boris Berezovsky, he's recorded quite a few of these pieces. He does some of the preludes.
Is he the guy that's at Yale? Is that fair?
Boris Berezovsky, I think you're talking about Boris Berman.
Yeah, Berman.
Berezovsky was the gold medal winner of one of the Tchaikovsky competitions. I don't remember.
I know his name.
Yeah. But he has a whole, one of his earlier CDs was all Russian. It had Leodoff, it had Rachmaninoff, it had some Scriabin. The other pianist I know recorded Leodoff was Anton Querty, the Austrian pianist.
Sounds right.
Anton Querty. But anyways, now according to some musicologists, the two big works in his output here is a variations on a theme by Mikhail Glinka.
Yeah, those are impressive.
And the variations on Polish themes.
Maybe that's the one I
Polish
saw.
themes. Those are big works. Now, there's another guy who claims that there's a ballad in here called From Old Times or From Olden Days, which is probably the masterwork. And according to him, he could be right, because I went and looked up that work on YouTube. And there's actually 2 versions of that work. One for solo piano, and the other one is for orchestra. Both are good. You can listen to either one of them. They're both good. They're not quite as virtuosic and technically involved as the variations, but the work is absolutely significant. It has some pretty melodies and stuff. And he treats the themes with lots of respect. It does eventually. It starts out rather slow and rather sentimental, but near the end of the work, the last few pages, the tempo does pick up, but not to a point where it's exceedingly fast. But it does end well. So
I was thinking about something just now that Anton Rubinstein with that lady started the Russian Music Society, which became a conservatory. And then I remembered many years ago when I went to Vegas to deliver my friend Norman Powell's violin, his Guarneri, to a fellow who was from Salt Lake City who did good work on string instruments. And one of the things I attended while I was there at that, I forget what it's called, but it's the Venetian, the Venetian. They had two display areas. I understand now, sadly, I think it's been closed and shut down. But for a long period of time, the Museum of Modern Art had one of its satellite museums connected to the Venetian. And it was an amazing exhibit because they had treasures from the Hermitage, and I got the book here.
Wow.
These were Impressionist paintings that were bought up by all these wealthy Russians in the 19th century, the Tsarist period, and they took them back to Russia, had them hanging in their homes and this and that, or whatever. And then, of course, by the Soviet times when everything was nationalized, they took all of this stuff and they put it in the Hermitage. And there it was for decades and decades, almost 100 years. And nobody ever saw it, or knew what was there for sure, anything like that. But after the Soviet Union broke open, Russia was free, that stuff became more available. They were making photographs of it and everything. And so this was a collection of amazing, high quality, really next to priceless, impressionistic works by the greatest painters. Which was, and the really cool thing about that, I finally understood, because in that Gertrude Stein theater production that the American actress does, which is recounting the life of Gertrude Stein, she talks about one of the early Impressionists. It may have been the first one. 36 some artists got together, rented their own space, and put their stuff up on the walls. And she talks about people's response to it, why it was such a scandal, was because the frames that were framing the paintings had been taken from other older paintings and reused. That often would happen. You just knock out the back and put something in it. So you'd have these incredibly, in many cases, carved and ornate frames that could have gone all the way back to Watteau from the late 18th century through the early 19th century. But inside there was a Matisse with a lady with a green thing on her nose,
Gosh.
And the people were shocked by what they saw inside the frames. They expected to see something that they were used to.
Yeah.
And she makes a really good tale about that. I had the same experience. I saw some of these paintings. Some of them were in extraordinarily decorative frames, but it's pure impression. I saw Cézanne's self-portrait, which was relatively small, in a rather biggish frame like this, which made it look smaller, but you look right into it. And the extraordinary thing, compared to Cézanne's paintings in general, is a rather dark picture. I would say it's fundamentally black with colors and things on it. That his face is all there and everything, but it's not like the colors, the sunshines, and the kind of stuff. Anyway, what I was going to say was, I think the reason, it just was occurring to me, this is not entirely fair, and I don't mean to insult my Russian friends.
Okay.
I think the reason that some of the early Russian music, let's say it's not Beethoven.
Right.
It's not Mahler.
No, it's not Mahler.
Not Brahms.
Definitely not.
I just quoted all German composers.
Yeah.
But the traditional thing about composers we had in our mind is that, I mean, some of them did well, you know, but to a certain extent, the life of a Western composer ideally has always been one of struggle, you know, which somehow hones and carves the character in the mind. You know, there's like a powerful desire, must do it. Like Beethoven says, muss es sein, they say, es muss sein, you know, it has to be. He was referring to something else, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The kind of hackneyed idea of the starving artist who is compelled to do it.
Yeah.
Because they come from often like Schubert, rather lowly.
Yeah.
If it weren't for the beneficence of the emperor at the time, who created that boys' school, Schubert would have never had the education that he got that way and been exposed to all these things. So, but these early Russian composers, in some cases like César Cui, we know, what's the guy, Borodin was a doctor, wasn't he?
He was a chemist.
Chemist?
I think.
Cui was some kind of a administrator of the government.
César Cui was a newspaper. He
Was that
a
it?
newspaper, yeah.
So these guys were basically amateur musicians, amateur composers.
Oh, yeah.
And they also tended to come, see, but interestingly, back in the Tsarist days, there was the nobility with the Tsar, there were the aristocrats, and there were the serfs, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't anything that you could call a middle class in Russian civilization. I mean, frankly, the Soviets developed a reasonably strong middle class during their time of rule. They kind of gave it out to everybody, you know, more or less have stuff and suffer it all together. There was no middle class. So if you were unfortunately one of the working class, which meant you were a serf, which still meant basically you were indentured servant to your lord or whoever it was that owned the property and all that stuff. That was a medieval lifestyle that went back in Western Europe hundreds of years before.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I was just thinking that maybe until you get to someone who's supremely gifted like Rachmaninoff, and he came from a good family.
But his father gambled it all away.
Yeah, right. But he had grown up in some decent situation.
Yeah, some
was able to go to school and so forth. Some of those guys that came through like that. Horowitz came from a good family.
Oh, yeah.
Good Jewish family down in Ukraine. But especially with the first generation of those composers, there's maybe a rough-hewn quality and a bit of coarseness and a kind of kind of like it. It's a nice melody. That collection of Russian music has a lot of really amazing things that affect people you don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But again, days without all those distractions. But all I was going to say was just that I think part of what drove it was kind of a new desire. Nationalism was finally hitting Russia, like it did all over Europe, and there were these great nationalist movements.
Yeah.
You know, the Czechs had theirs with Dvorak and Smetana. Germans had been around for a while, but there was a kind of more German-ness identity about things. So this is what was going on. And I think there was such a desire to identify as a nation and as a culture, as in the language group, you know. That they wanted, in a sense, to recreate the wheel in their own image. And they had to borrow certain models, I think, obviously. But, I mean, I understand that with the creation of Anton Rubinstein and the Conservatory, the big deal is that they determined the instruction would be in Russian. And everybody thought, why would you do that? I mean, why wouldn't you teach in French or German? Because this is the language of the masters of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because we need to make it part of our own. We need to make it completely accessible to our people. And it's interesting, that
maybe we'll get into that.
culturally it's a very interesting example of a nationalism where there was real focus. Well-meaning people that wanted to do it, but because of the societal structure, there wasn't that area where, come on, Brahms was playing in brothels when he was a teenage boy, and it's where he developed his taste for prostitutes. He never got married. He was fine getting it, on the hoof. That came from his early life, where he came from. But come on, Brahms is one of the great masters. He came from really poor, primitive parts of Hamburg. Beethoven's family, there were some musicians there and stuff, but the name itself, going back to the grandfather and stuff, and they were always kind of involved in music or something quarterly, but they were gentlemen farmer, like lower class farmers or something too. And then some of the early guys like Mozart, he was a servant, right? Haydn was a servant. They were brilliant. Oh yeah, they were brilliant. But they had to prove themselves. Haydn eventually got his freedom the last 9 or 10 years of his life. Went into Vienna, bought his own house with his own staff.
And he was loved.
Unlike
anybody else, he was loved. That story about his final performance of the Seasons. It was the last performance he would ever go to. He's sitting in that balcony box, and everybody sees this old man up there. And what do all those aristocracy do? All the women all come up, and they all cover him with their shawls. And so he's got all these women's shawls on, and they all kiss him on the cheek. Could you imagine that? Being that much adored by your public?
God love him.
So
he didn't have a great time in his private life. But it just came out when you were saying that. I was thinking, God love him for trying so hard and doing it, but they lacked that interior middle from which someone, the people often say that some of the smartest dogs, really smart ones, are mongrels. Not purebreds. But the mixed breed dogs, that came out of Daddy and Mommy met each other in an alley and woofy woofy, and now here I am. Because in a way, I'm speaking as an American who's kind of proud about this, but America, sadly now we have an aristocracy. Everybody says that America's a classless society. It's bullcrap. Of course, there's classful society. We've got our aristocracy here now, people pass the money along and everything, but for a long time, and from the beginning, there were some landowners and all that, but American blood, when you look at it from mid-19th, say, pre-Civil War through anything up to this day and age, there's a big bunch of us that are quite a mix of bloodlines. And a lot of really successful, intelligent, strong people who contributed greatly to our country, our culture, our nation, the world. We're mongrels.
Exactly. You ever seen Stripes? Bill Murray? Where he says, there is nothing, Bill Murray says, there is nothing more lovable than the mutt. He says, that's what we are.
Yes.
You see? Here, I'll prove it. See? His nose is wet.
No, I think there's some truth in it. If you look like, I'm thinking about in earlier years, there's, you remember the composer Gesualdo?
Yes, I do.
He was an Italian lord or something. They're way up there.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He was very high up in the scale. Like one of these gentrified lord kind of things, because he killed his wife and her lover, and he wasn't punished. He got prison for it. Why? He was the law. Those kind of people were above the law, as certain people in our country are trying to prove that they are. And his music is very interesting. Very original at the time. very well known. It's even idiosyncratic.
Well,
But let's put it this way: God loved him and everything he tried to do, but he's no Josquin de Prey.
no, he's not.
And trying to think Palestrina or
Yeah,
there's some different people like that, but
Defy.
or Defy. I mean, he's there and he did his thing, and he has a little place there. But I think most of what people are reminded about when we learned about him in music history class, I think the question on the test even was, this guy is the one who was famous for murdering his wife and her lover and writing very idiosyncratic music. Oh, that was just one. Everybody got that one. Got that one. Anyway, I'm talking a simple full 3 hours, but
it is 3 hours.
Yeah.
Well,
So
folks,
I've got some editing to do with this sucker.
yes.
Because we've been all over the place.
Oh, we have. This is a good show, though. I really enjoyed it. Well,
That's good.
just like we always do. But anyways, let's tell our viewers here. If you enjoyed our content for today, and boy, did we have a lot of content today. You enjoyed our company, please tell your family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your co-workers how much you enjoy the show. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell so you don't miss any episodes. And I guess we'll see you later.
Yeah.
Okay. This is
I'm Dr. Mark Haig. This is
Elmer.
And we are PSI.
PSI.
Piano Scene Investigation. See you next time, everybody.